Welcome to the latest episode of Platform. I have coronavirus, so if I sound a bit weird or look even more haggard than usual, that is the reason. Today's guest is Austin Paz. I'm a huge fan of Austin Paz for his skating, for his filming, for his photography, and most recently for his being one part of Jumpstreet Podcast. I first encountered Austin on Raw News via the edits that he used to make for his wheel sponsor Eulogy, and just loved his style. Just everything was really like tucked in, precise. He had just an incredible true spin topside game. He got really low in his grinds. He was just one of these people that like laced a trick. You know, some skaters like snatch at it and, you know, look lucky to escape unharmed. Austin is not one of those people. When he lands a trick, he lands it legit. He has been sponsored by some brilliant companies over the years, like Valo, Eulogy, like I mentioned. He was sponsored by Able Frames, also Aggressive Mall. And in most recent years, well, his latest batch of sponsors, he was sponsored by Be Unique, who obviously had a huge influence on the blading scene, and then Create Originals. I think he might still be riding for Create Originals or still getting free product from them. I'm not sure. In addition to his skating, you know, he is also filmed for many projects over the years. I know that he contributed quite a lot to the Be Unique videos, and alongside Sean and Colin Kelso, he was responsible for the Truth series. They only produced 2 videos, but both videos were absolutely brilliant. The second one in particular, it was just like an all-star cast of all your favorite skaters, and Austin had a section in it that held its own. Since then, he's been kind of quiet on that front. He has always been skating, but just not been producing sections as much. I think he had his Create Original section that he played the drums to, and then he's just kind of like featured and stuff here and there over the years. But recently, we've been fortunate enough to get new footage of him, thanks to JP from Butter TV. Austin had a heap of footage in Hawaii alongside Billy O'Neill, Franco Camayo, and all those guys over there. And he recently had a new section out by Butter TV called By the Slice. If you haven't seen that, it is so good. And I would argue probably one of Austin's best sections to date. I've been wanting to do this with him for about, I'm going to say like the better part of a year. I've been asking him to come on, maybe just under a year, but he wanted to wait till this section was done. Now that it is, we'll finally get an excuse to talk, so I am very grateful. Before all that though, I just want to thank all the Patreon supporters for, just contributing to this channel, help me make more content. I just broke a light the other day, so I've managed to use the Patreon money to get a new one. Hopefully this one lasts more than 3 months and I don't smash it against a wall like the last one. If you'd like to contribute to the Patreon, you can do so for as little as £3. Now that I've got that painful like spiel out the way, just stole Billy's word there. Cue the music. Right. Okay.
Oh my God. Zoom's such a bitch, huh?
Is that why you gravitated away from it? Is that I'm using the...
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm using the rudimental podcast software.
Am I the volume good or what?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Am I getting the personal experience now? Where are you? I think this might be one of the few rooms of your house that I've not seen.
No, this is it. This is the room.
Really? Okay.
You usually just, I guess maybe because on the podcast, it's like this framed, so you don't see, but this is the same room that we shot all the podcasts in when we do it in person too, which people see it on like the video, which I don't understand their perspective, but then they come here and like, this is the room. And it's like tiny. It's like, I don't know, 10 feet by 10 feet. It's super small.
Okay. Right. So the table must be like, would have been in front of you then?
It would be like right here. And then the TV's up against the wall here, usually like that. So that we have like a foldable table, like a collapsible one. It's in the closet now. But yeah, so like the TV would be here. Okay. And the table is right here. And then like, this is Billy. That way.
So given how like the room looks quite narrow, how the hell are you
It's
fitting
tiny.
four people around that table? And how do you still manage to get your little like trophy cabinet in the background, making sure you've still got your bobblehead and your pro wheel?
That's all
don't
right
think
here.
we don't notice you're always showing off.
That's
the
all
pro
right
wheels.
here. That's all right here. Well, I got rid of the wheels. I got rid of the wheels a while ago. They kept falling over. But yeah, no, this room is super tiny. Like I said, when people show up, they're like, okay, so where does it happen? We're like right here. Like that makes no sense because it's so small. But it just fits literally. If the cameras are pretty much up against the wall when we shoot it, so you can't like you have to like duck around everything. It's super. This is New York. It's like super small. Like
you live in Staten Island. I thought that was cheaper.
It is, but it's still small space. I don't know. I don't have any big rooms necessarily. My living room's pretty nice, but I can't do it in my living room. It's just like too much going on, and it's too far from like the Wi-Fi and stuff. So we do it here, but we make work with what we got.
So when you did the E-Rod episode and Ryan Menny was passed out on the sofa, where was the sofa?
It's in the living room. I don't know. Maybe no. I don't think it was on the sofa. We have see the computer chair I'm in now. We don't use this on the show, so I put it in the hallway. So whoever is here with the guests, usually, unless they're like sleeping in the living room, whatever, they're just like watching from beyond the door. So like the door is open and they're just watching through the door. But yeah, I remember that he was sleeping in this chair, just like right on the other side of the door. So you could see him, but you can't see much else besides that.
Okay. Right. Fair
I didn't realize I was giving much of a behind the scenes to how we do Jumpstreet.
I think, it definitely gives the perspective of being a much bigger room the way, but then, you can do like you do photography. So, if you like shove a wide angle lens on the,
that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. We have like the middle camera is pretty much a 16-35 full zoom out, so that's like as wide as we could get.
Right.
I can't even take pictures of it really because it doesn't show it justice because it's not wide enough to actually show the whole room in one shot, because we're at 16 millimeters right now. This is as wide as we could get, but that's it.
It's like those property photos when you look at like, I don't know, flats or houses to buy.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, everything looks huge. And then you get there and you're like, you motherfuckers. Like
photographers know what they're doing. That's how they sell.
So the last time we met, the first and only time we met, you cool guyed me and broke my heart.
What?
Do you remember this?
Yeah, I think I know. Winter Clash?
Yeah. And I saw you in the stairs. I was like, hey, Austin, it's David McNamara. And you're like, oh, yeah. Hey, cool. And just carried on.
It was on the stairs before?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I don't fucking. It's Winter Clash. There's so much shit going on.
Mike. Yeah, you were with Mike. And like Mike recognized me and you didn't. You were just like, yeah, cool, whatever. And I was like, I've interviewed this guy like 20 years ago. I was like, been in touch with him fairly regularly, and then you saw me.
I didn't even know that happened.
You were like, "Hey, David," and I was like, "Oh, we're talking to me now. All right, cool. Right, that's what's happening."
See, I didn't remember that happening at all. My bad about that. I still don't remember doing that. It's Winter Clash. There's a million people there, but I'm sorry about that. I remember it was like me, you, Chaz, and someone else. It was before or in between one of the panels, and you said something like, "This guy still doesn't even know who I am," and I was like, "What?" And as soon as you open your mouth for some reason, I guess just being with Chaz, like the Scotland. Like connection made like all figured out in my head. And I was like, oh shit, you're Dave. And at that point though, you weren't like, your face wasn't everywhere. Like you didn't have the podcast. So I didn't know what you looked like, like I didn't know what you looked like. So my bad, but there's a reason for that. At least your face isn't plastered next to every article you've ever done or anything like that,
Yeah. I'll let you away with that,
Yeah. That's my excuse right there.
That was the first time you upset me. The second time was when I realized that you couldn't tie your own shoelaces and you tried to pass it off as a lifestyle hack. I'm still not over that.
So I think that the most useless part of a skate and my biggest pet peeve on almost all skates are the laces. I stopped tying shoes when I was like 15. I've never not that I never tie anything, but like if I get a pair of shoes, like I'll tie it once when it's brand new and that's it. I leave it. And a lot of my shoes, they're not even tied. They're just like laces wrapped around. Like that's just been like my mantra forever. I still do the bunny ears. I will give you that. I don't know the loop, swoop, and pull. I haven't perfected it yet, but I'll admit that.
Do you like wearing your skates loose then? Because how can
no
way. But that you can't.
It's all buckle.
Your skate. You can't have your. But that's what I mean. You can't have like. See, you used to ride them skates. See, when you pull the laces on them skates, you feel that plastic wrap around your foot.
Well, the difference is them skates don't have a 45. So the skates that I've been riding now, I've been riding the Aeon 80s, the blank skates, the FR skates, and they all have 45. So with that 45, you don't need the laces because it does that for you. It holds your foot down. So I have not done the 909s with elastic laces yet. So
okay,
I don't have a proper review of that one, but that makes sense, I guess, from your side.
That's got to be the marketing idea then. So it's like use 45-degree straps if you don't know how to tie your shoelaces.
Exactly. But I remember even like the Arlo, or not the Arlo ones, but yeah, the Arlo ones, the Velcro Valo skates back in the day had the 3 Velcro straps. It looked a little crazy, but I love the feeling of that. Like the quick, just 3 straps and that's it.
I mean, of course you did. You're lazy.
Yo, I want to put my skates on and just go. I don't get why like people just sit there for 20 minutes putting their skates on. I don't need to do that. I want to put my skates on and go. I want to take my skates off and get the hell out of there, you know?
Yeah. Love
That's
Valo.
just me though.
Love Arlo, but those skates were upsetting to look at. Actually, all the Valo Velcro ones were upsetting. They just looked like, see if you saw a guy in the street with like Velcro trainers, you'd be like, dude, come on. Wait.
I completely get that. I completely understand that. There's got to be a way, like it kind of reminds you like bowling shoes or like orthopedic shoes a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a way to make that look good from like a styling or fashion standpoint of some sort. I don't know how. Maybe Velcro isn't the answer. Maybe there's another way to go about it. I don't know. But there's got to be a way to make that look good because laces suck.
that has got to be something. Like, given all the products that Brain Dead come out with, they have got to have came out with a bow and shoe at one point, or must have one in her. Like they might tap into all that niche stuff. So
yeah,
they could be. That's something you can pitch next time you're in Santa Ana. Be like, guys, we ever laces? What are
those? We gotta wait for the Back to the Future shoes to come out for skates now, because I know they released the Nike ones where they auto lace on their own. If we get a pair of skates like that, I'll buy them.
I still don't think I've seen those in real life.
No, me neither. They're super rare.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how many they made. I don't know anything about those sneakers, but I from what I remember, they were super rare.
Right. Fair enough. So now that we've got that out of the way and, you know, the heartbreak's over, congratulations on the new section. There was a while I didn't think you were going to ever film a new one. In fact, I remember specifically trying to pay you to film one roundabout when Wheel Seating started. I remember contacting you, and you hadn't been filming for a couple of years. Like you'd been.
Might have been.
Well, the last thing you'd had was the Create Originals section, the drumming.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, like I'll give you some money, like just do like a short street part. And you were like, I don't have anyone to film.
Yeah. I mean, there was multiple problems with that in general for the reason why I haven't really put out edits in a long time. One of them, it's like, even though I've known JP forever, like he's a busy guy, he has shit going on, but to like consistently have somebody to meet with and skate with all the time, it's like, it's a lot, you know, everyone's an adult. We have our own separate lives. Schedules don't necessarily line up, which is part of the reason why this video took so long in the first place. But yeah, that's like a huge part of it. I was tired for years and years of just like handing cameras off to, because I always had the camera, you know, so I handing cameras off to whoever I'm skating with. Doesn't matter who it was. They film something. It's like not the best. And I have to do it like 2, 3, 4, 5 times sometimes. And I'm worn out. I'm like, I can't do this trick over and over again for a mediocre looking clip. So,
and you start hating your friends because you're like, I landed it 30 minutes ago and you fucked me. So now I'm that relationship with the filmer when they let you down, and then if you start getting hurt and you're like, well,
exactly,
I wasn't hurt when I landed it.
Exactly.
Now like, bits are falling off. Like, yeah.
I mean, as a filmer myself, I would feel bad if I like missed the clip, because that's happened before, you know, like you accidentally forget to press record or something like that. But if you miss the clip and then they do it again, then they got hurt the second time because you fucked up the clip. Like I would feel like shit if that happened. So yeah, that's part of it. A lot of like the truth days and stuff like that were me missing out on sessions because I'm filming other people, or just, having to do tricks multiple times, or have it filmed really bad and I couldn't use the clip, whatever, you know, it just wasn't filmed that good, you know? That's definitely a huge issue with that.
Is that like, was that one of the reasons why you put the camera down, or why you like stopped taking it out to sessions? Because there was a while where you were just pumping out online sections, like regular stuff for Eulogy and things like that. I'm assuming you were also contributing quite a bit of footage to like Be Unique videos and stuff as well. But then it all just kind of like stopped, and you went silent for like a good few years there.
That was my downfall, I guess, right? But it didn't matter to me because, you're right though. I was the guy with the camera, photo and video. I was always there for the guys, you know, me, Franco Camayo, Billy O'Neill, like a bunch of the New York guys, the Kelsos and stuff like that. Also, like I was always shooting photos of ourselves and filming for like the unique video of Billy for Mind Game Video, stuff like that in my own projects or online edits at the time. But after the Truth too, I was just like, fuck this. I can't do this anymore. I can't like skating around in the city with like a big camera bag on with like the DVX or GL, whatever it was, and having like a photo camera body, like my Canon 20D at the time, plus like all the lenses, a 7200. Like my back was broken from skating around the city. A lot of times we got to skate spots and I didn't even want to skate anymore. I was just so sore from not even doing tricks, just getting to the spot. And it was really frustrating. And I just missed out on so many sessions because I was so focused as the camera guy. Like I'm focused on like, oh, we have to get that clip. That was sick, you know, and I take the camera out and I sacrifice my time to film everybody else. And that happened for years. And just after the Truth too, I was like, all right, this project's done. I'm not taking my camera out anymore. I don't care. And then I, for years, like didn't take my cameras out at all. I sold my camera, sold the DVX. I still took photos, but just like for my own personal stuff. And then that was it. I just skated for fun. And then I realized how much more I liked skating when I didn't have to be the camera guy. And sure, I missed a lot of footage and a lot of clips during those few years, but I didn't care because to me, I just wanted to skate and have fun again. That's why I started skating in the first place. That's what I wanted to go back to. I didn't want skating to become like a job or something like that. You know, I just wanted to have fun. And the most fun for me is going to a skate spot, not having to worry about getting a clip, any pressure, nothing like that. I just want to have fun with my friends. And that's what I did for years. And that, yeah, I had no content during those times probably, or very little. And that's when I started like losing my sponsors and stuff, I guess. I don't know. Or just falling off the face of the map. But yeah, that was my main reason for all that.
That's what I was going to. So that actually reminded me of something. When we did your BMAG interview and you got the photos, I was like, how the hell has he got these photos? And you told me that you basically like set up the shot, set up the light and everything, did the trick, and then like shoved the camera in your friend's hand and was like, right, press it now.
That's exactly what I did for so long. I would literally go set up all the lights, probably have somebody stand in and be like, okay, hold the camera right here, take the picture, snap it at this point. But it's the same thing too. It's like with filming, like with a photo, you have to be like right on it. So if you're not a photographer, your timing isn't right. Sometimes you miss it and I have to do the trick again, like multiple times. So it's like the same process over and over again. But maybe sometimes I've even put like a tripod up and like had the camera on a tripod legit. So the compositioning was like perfect. I didn't have to crop or nothing like that. Yeah, it was the same process though, photo and video doing the same thing.
Because even that, like I'm the filmer of our group. And it's incredibly frustrating when you're like, right, I'll try. Someone's like, do you want to get something? But you know that you're not just thinking about the rail or the ledge anymore. You're suddenly like side glancing. You're like, why is he not moving already? Like, why is he so far away? Like, or you see them like not doing what you think they should be doing. And you're like fucking concentrate.
It's like a same situation. If like you're skating up to the trick and you notice in the corner of your eye, like they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And you're trying to focus like, I don't get it. Did he press record? Did he not press record? Is that where they're going to film it from? Like, whoa. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
And like, it messes you up the whole time. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah. It's no longer just battling the trick. You're suddenly, there's a whole like other psychological element to it. Cause you're like, is this person going to screw me over? And
yeah, exactly.
Have to go back up these stairs.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a scary trick too. You don't want to do a scary trick more than once. Like I'm not a guy for hammers, but you know,
that's
if something
also
is
not true. That's not true.
I think that's true. But if something is scary to me, I don't want to do it more than once. But luckily, like throughout the years, Billy got a little better. Billy O'Neill got better with the camera. I was able to like trust him for most of my filming. And then I know I started skating with the Kelsos more. And even though they're not from the same city as me, Philly's like an hour and a half away or so, but we would skate together a lot during those times. So I was taking advantage of every moment I had with them to like make sure that I was going to have something filmed properly or correctly. And that was what like I relied on for a lot of the time. When
you like basically said, I'm not doing that, like, did that have any kickback with your friends? Because obviously you said it yourself, like there were other skaters that then relied on you to get footage for them. Like when they were local, like Billy, like I'm assuming his Mind Game stuff is Be Unique stuff. Like you helped out a lot with that. Or like you said, Franco Camayo as well. And there's obviously other great skaters in the area. Were they like, whoa, wait a minute, like you're not going to you're not going to help out anymore? Like, was
I
there
didn't even think about that, honestly, but around that time, because the truth was like 2009. So probably like 2009, 2010 probably is when I stopped filming. But around that time also, like a lot of people moved away. I think that was probably around the time Billy moved to California.
Right.
Or wherever else he lives. And, Franco also was, moving around. So I think it was just part of it. It was just at that point, just me and like my friends who weren't taking skating as seriously, weren't filming, didn't need clips or edits to promote whatever they were working on. So I think it just coincidentally worked the same way, that everybody kind of dispersed and did their own thing, which is part of the reason why we like never did like a true 3 or something like that, because people started moving. Like Mike moved away, Billy moved away, Franco moved away, Chesh kind of stopped skating, John Bellino moved away. So that all kind of happened at the same time. So I guess it all just played into each other.
Right. And so I always kind of thought that you just made the conscious decision to like quit your sponsors, just being like, I don't have time to kind of focus on this. I just thought you decided I'm going the career route, because obviously your photography started taking off not long after that.
Mm-hmm.
But you said like it was the other way around. They were like, oh, you're not making content anymore. Well, we can't justify sending you stuff.
I don't like know if that actually happened. It's just coincidence that was like around the time when I started like I started like I don't know about losing connection, but just like other people started coming in, I guess, to these companies, and I was just like kind of back foot. And again, at that point, I didn't really care too much, because like I said, I just wanted to skate and have fun again. I didn't like even like going to contests and like say like John from Valo or Isaac from Eulogy would like fly me to like Bitter Cold or Winter Clash or whatever it is. And then I would be like, I feel like I'm obligated to compete in the contest, which I don't like to do either. And even like when all that stuff stopped and I was going to these events and not having to worry about competing and like doing well or performing, whatever it is, it like changed the whole experience of me going to these events in the first place. It made them all way more fun. I didn't have to stress or worry about anything. I didn't like that about being a sponsor skater either. Having to live up to something, which I'm horrible at contests. So I'm glad I didn't have to worry about that anyway.
You've got that one viral contest clip though. Is it the 540 alley-oop porn star? And is it the Be Unique contest or whatever it is? I'm sure it's not
the disaster box, the launch box.
Is that what that trick was?
A 540 alley-oop soul.
Hip hop shit niggas feel, y'all. It's real, y'all. Boys with the text, you don't know they see. And the spot so
540 alley-oop soul, that's it.
I'm surprised you can remember that.
I'm like a weird, crappy encyclopedia for blading. But I remember that. That
might have been one of the few contests I did well in. That was like I believe that was the Got That Snow contest at the Be Unique skate park. It was during the winter time, so it was like Got That Snow, and like I don't have to recite what the innuendo means, but yeah, that was that skate park. For anybody who remembers, it was the slipperiest skate. It was like an ice skating rink, that skate park. It was horrible to skate in. So the fact that I think I did a disaster, let alone 540 disaster on that box, like everyone was like super shocked and surprised about that.
Yeah,
John won the contest actually,
right,
when he was like 13 or whatever, like super young.
That doesn't surprise me. He was disgustingly good from a very young age.
From the beginning.
Him and Sizemore were just like tiny little robots.
Yeah.
Be Unique, right? So I was always confused. I always just thought that was like the nickname for the park. I didn't realize they actually owned a skate park. Where the hell did they get the money for that?
So that was a skate park already called X Ramps. That was an already established skate park, and they were closing. And then the Be Unique guys took the opportunity. They snuck in. They're like, all right, if you're going to close, we'll buy it off you. I don't remember how the deal or transaction went down, if they were looking for someone to buy it or whatever, but that's what happened. So everything was pretty much there already. They just bought it. They bought the business. They rebranded it, and they probably added like one or two things. The down rail was definitely new, that little low down rail, and maybe like the bowl corner in the back was different. But other than that, it was a different park called X Ramps, and it was actually in the USD Tour video. They came the crazy USD Tour video.
Yeah.
DL, it's like a big quarter pipe. DL does like some weird backslide 450 set slide shuffle on it, and like Walt skates it, I think. And so that if anybody was going to see that park before it was the Be Unique park, I think that might have been the only video that it was in before that.
Because I always feel like Be Unique gave off the impression of being much bigger or much more successful than it actually was. But then when you hear stuff about them, like buying skate, because obviously they did like the Jew tour thing That just seems like really good, like marketing on their part, or like they were just really good at like building relationships because they obviously became friends with like the Dipset guys and did the Dipskate thing. But I just always thought they gave off they were very good at making it all look a lot bigger, more successful, and more lucrative than it actually was. Because when I spoke to distributors in the UK, they didn't pay their bills.
Oh, really?
They were like, yeah, like because I knew the guy that was running Empire UK, and he was like, we bought a whole lot of Be Unique stuff. Well, they like sent us it to distribute it. We sold all the stuff, and then they never paid us like the cut that they were. And I was like, oh, okay. And that
I don't know any of that stuff. Yeah, but it was, I don't know what the perspective is outside. I mean, I guess I kind of get the idea, whatever. But I know them from just being like the homies in New York, like. For 90% of the Be Unique, the whole Be Unique like existence, it was Chris and Courtney Brown running it out of their parents' apartment in Manhattan. Yep. There was no warehouse, no office, studio, nothing like that. So if anyone did think it was this big whole massive thing, it was legit like them sleeping at their parents' apartment in the city, you know? And I think looking back on it, they were pretty young too. So
that gave off, whenever you see them in the videos as well, it gives off the impression that it's their apartment and that they're like balling out. And you're like, well, that's not really the case, is it? Yeah. So
we're lucky enough that their parents were awesome. I don't remember their names, but yeah, their parents were awesome. They would always let us crash there. We would have like, you know, typical skater house. Like there's a million people sleeping on the floor when people were in town or whatever, but it wasn't a house. It was just like a maybe 2-bedroom apartment or something like that. I don't know. It was tiny little apartment. It's in all their videos, you know, like the bonus to like freestyle rolling and stuff like that. And the intro to intro to freestyle rolling is sitting in front of the little iMac talking before freestyle rolling starts. So yeah, like that's what it was. And they did a lot with the little that they have. They were hustlers. Like Courtney would we would all be hanging out at the house. Like Chris would be editing, doing whatever. We're all just bullshitting. And Chris is there like with like a business book of some sort, like how to like business 101 or whatever, always just reading something, figuring it out. And he was the one making all the connections, like making the Do Tour happen, getting the whole dip skate connect and going. They had almost like a storefront kind of in Times Square. Like that was the last hurrah for Be Unique. I never been there. It was like an office. It was an office in Times Square. They shared it with somebody else. I don't remember who or how they got the connect, but it was like the last few months of Be Unique. They had like a legit like studio or office or something like that in Times Square. So it was getting to like a big point. Then, they just dropped off.
Did anyone ever get an explanation? Because I've asked Billy about this and he was like, I have no idea. Like, but you guys were obviously friends. So what, they just started ghosting everyone? Like you just never heard
pretty much. Them? Yeah, pretty much. Like Courtney, from what I could remember this wrong because it was so long ago. Like Chris wasn't the guy you really get in touch with. It was Courtney. Like maybe he had the cell phone at the time. Chris might even not have had his cell phone, but it was like Courtney he was kind of a hard guy to get in touch with in general. He was just one of those people, but there was a time where a few months where just out of nowhere, everyone's just like, what happened? Like, have you talked to Courtney or Chris lately? I haven't seen them. And we're like, no one heard from them. And then it just like fell off. And then, no one ever really got an explanation, at least as far as I know. I'm sure other people that might have been closer to them got an explanation, but like, haven't really spoken to them much. I saw them at Alex Nunes's funeral, which was, I don't remember, like 2015-ish, something like that. So it was still a while ago, but that was the first time I saw them in a long time. And I wasn't going to like bombard them with like, what the hell happened or whatever. But it was like when I saw them, I expect like people completely different, but they were the same exact people that I remembered skating around the city with like baggy, dirty sweatpants on and everything. Like we picked up right where we left off. It was such like a natural vibe with those guys. And they still like had love for skating. They were like curious about what was going on in skating and how we were all doing and whatever, but they just do their own thing now. And I haven't really had time to talk with them much, after that or anything. So I never really asked them about it or anything like that.
Yeah. It just all seems so well. It seemed like something like there must have been an event or something that happened that would have caused that, because it seems such a strange thing to just cut off, because it's not just like, I don't know, a brand like you're working on. Like one of them was I've seen clips of one of them skating. Was it Chris?
Courtney was the one who was like a beast. Like he could have easily been like,
there's one that was like
at that
All the
time.
switch ups on like handicap rails and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, so you're not just giving up the company, you're obviously giving up skating as well. And you've got a friendship group that's associated with it that you're just totally isolating yourself from.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing normally doesn't happen unless there's like, you know, like something to cause. It's not like someone just wakes up one day and goes, nope, all that's done.
Yeah. It was just as weird for us when it happened too. Like we were all just taken away by it and it just happened out of nowhere. And it wasn't even like an announcement like, hey, we're done, we're moving on. I don't even remember honestly hearing that they were like officially done. I just remember being like, I guess Be Unique's not around anymore. Like we don't know.
Because they just launched a line. I remember the line vividly. It was like it had like the Be Unique and like multicolors.
Yeah,
like some really, it had that weird sheep thing about sheep getting shot or something. I was like, don't know about that logo. The rest is good. And then it just stopped. Yeah,
that's pretty much how it was. I'm pretty sure I never even got like the clothes from the last line or anything. Like I wasn't even talking to them at that point. But yeah, it just happened out of nowhere. Unfortunately, that's what happened. They were so dedicated and killing it with everything they did at the time, and they did a lot for skating. And that was to me one of like my favorite times, my favorite moment in skating, like ever, I guess if you want to call it, was that little Be Unique stint of however many 3, 4, 5 years it was. That was like a really, really good time, really strong scene a really strong time for the New York scene too. So, and we were still kids then. It was like I was 17 or something like that at the time. So like I didn't give a fuck about anything. I was just a kid. I wasn't worried about work or stress of life or anything like that. So it was a mix of all those things that made that time like really stand out for me.
I was looking back on that. So it's quite fun. I can't remember what magazine it was. There's no magazine that's got a Be Unique advert on it, and it's like you and like tiny little Austin, really small head, but your eyebrows are the exact same size, and it makes it look like you've got a monobrow. But you actually look at it, you're like, he doesn't. But it's just you've finally grown into those eyebrows, Austin.
Oh, I did not grow into them yet, still, and they're all, as I get older, they're only going to get bushier and bigger. But yeah,
so I was like, God, like, yeah, because in some of them you are like, proper baby faced. So
yeah, I was probably during like the height of Be Unique, I was probably like 15 years old. You know, that was like, you're 15 years old. That's a kid. You're fucking tiny. Especially we're all adults now looking back on like a 15-year-old, like you're a fucking baby.
You know, definitely. Like, oh yeah, God, even in your late teens, you think you're like, I'm a man now. I'm a man.
Yeah.
And then you get to like your 30s and you're like, I was an idiot. Like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So totally got completely off track there. The new project with JP. I love how you're like, oh yeah, it took a year to get it right. You were throwing away very good clips left, right, and center. The 360 topsoul down Dallas kink, you're like, meh, whatever. It's just a free topsoul. I've never.
That was for shits. I see. To me, like even though in the new edit, the Butter TV edit, I have like a few like big kink rails or whatever, soul grinds in it. Like that stuff personally doesn't like. It's fun to do, but I don't think it's like impressive necessarily. I love just cruising like a big rail or something like that. It's just like a fun feeling, you know, like a surfing kind of feeling. But like, yeah, Dallas kink is just like, it's another kink rail. And as I wasn't with JP at the time anyway, so I wouldn't be able to get like a proper clip of that. But we just went there after Blading Cup. Like my friend was like, I always wanted to hit this rail. We went there. It was my first time there. And then I don't know, it just get carried away sometimes, I guess. But yeah.
It's one of those spots that looks really good in video, but then when you see like, because Jan Welch puts up obviously his like vault things where it shows you people doing attempts and you're like, oh, that landing looks quite zippy. Like, it looks
Have you been there or no?
I've never been to California.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that rail is nothing like it looks in the videos. Not at all. When I got there, I was like, I can't believe this is the same spot. It looks completely different. It's to me anyway, from my perspective, what I got out of the videos in person, it's way more mellow. It turns way more than it looks in the videos. And it's like kind of a welcoming rail. It's very, because it's so mellow. It just looks so much steeper and like it turns more in videos, I guess, because the way it's filmed. But in person, it's way more welcoming than it seems.
All right. I got the impression that, right, okay. So, because when I saw the Jan Welch footage of like Chris Haffey trying it, I was like, kind of looks a little bit higher than it does in most other footage. And I was like, oh, so that landing looks like if you're off balance, you're just going to eat shit straight into the concrete.
The landing's whatever. If you see any footage of it filmed from the top, you'll see a complete difference in what the perspective is from the bottom. It's from the top. It's like so unintimidating.
Right. Okay. That was the, like, when you see people like Shima and stuff doing, was it alley topsoul he did then or something?
Yeah,
I was like
they still done
that rail can't be anything if he's alley topsoul in it, because like that is a weird trick to do down a long kink.
I mean, I'm not discrediting anybody for whatever they've done on that rail. Alley topsoul on that rail is insane. Any alley trick on that rail is insane. Almost any, I would say any groove trick on that rail is insane too. And people have done like 450 royales and stuff like that on that rail. I can't imagine doing a groove trick on that rail. I would picture just like flying off and being out. And there's big like gaps in the rail. Yeah, what's your dog doing over there?
Did you just hear him or could you see him?
Both. I saw the paw a couple of times pop up, just like the one paw like that.
He always sleeps with like all his legs in the air and like just drags them over perfectly clean walls that are now just covered in dog marks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering that. Yeah, he is. Like,
nah, I saw that a couple of times.
Right.
But yeah, that rail, this is still a big rail regardless. It's just not as intimidating when you see it in person, at least in my opinion.
See, that's the hope that all us like European or British skaters hold when we ever look at California spots. Like, God, there's the one that Billy does in Mind Game. I think he does Alec Fishburne or something, doesn't it? The really long, mellow one in California that's got the big open landing. And all
yeah,
of us,
yeah.
like,
I don't know what that
British
spot's
skaters
called,
like,
but yeah, I know what you're talking
like
about.
the one that Carlos disasters, or like,
yeah.
I think it's in the intro to the Jumpstreet podcast, isn't
it? Carlos? I don't think there's a Carlos.
Carlos is someone disasters it. It's that real anyway.
Yeah.
And so we're all like, yeah, but it's fine. It's because it's California. All the rails are like knee high.
Perfect.
Like, these guys aren't even that good. Like, like if they had British rails, our rails are like 6 feet high with no run up and like terrible gravel landing. Like if they had that, they wouldn't be able to do that stuff. And then you go there and you're like, oh shit. That's not as unintimidating as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I would say most California spots are as perfect as they look one way or another. Because like you said, same thing with maybe like Glasgow spots or whatever. Same thing with New York spots. They're rugged. They're rough. There's always like a crack in front of something that you don't notice, or a gap to it, or something just off or weird about a spot. I feel like almost every spot I go to in California, it's like, oh, there it is. It's perfect. Do whatever you want with it.
Yep. And then they have the cheek to like Bondo, the tiniest little indiscretion. You're like, we wouldn't even have noticed that, and you're fixing it. Okay, cool, right?
So spoiled.
yeah. I always find that really amusing. They're like, here's how you fix a skate spot. And I'm like, that skate spot does not need fixed. Like that is not an issue.
Perfect. They're all perfect.
Yeah. I'm like, missing slabs at the top of a rail. That's an issue. But, yeah. So yeah, like that section was. First off, I think it might be one of the best sections you've had, and you've had a stack. Like I would say it's definitely up there with like your Truth 2 section. The Fakie 450 topsoul, Fakie 540 topsoul caught me completely unaware, because the first time I watched it, I didn't even realize that's what you did. Like
I feel like I got that vibe from people watching it, which is kind of what I liked about it too. It happened so quickly.
Yeah, like it was only the second time I was like, oh, I thought he just 3 topsouled that, and then I was like, wait a minute, and then I started trying to like process it, and I was like, I don't remember ever seeing anyone do that way down a stair rail. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was seeing Aragon do the Fakie 540 Hurricane way.
Yeah, Hurricane.
But I feel like it's safer. It's not safer, but like you can actually like spot the rail sooner, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with you. It's definitely, in my opinion, way safer than doing the Hurricane way. I would never do it the Hurricane way, 540 on anything, let alone a down rail. So Aragon's a nutcase for doing that.
But I feel like the way you do it, like you're doing it, it feels like it's more blind. I feel like you're just feeling your way around rather than actually being able to see where, like, spot where you're going to slam your topside foot in.
I mean, I think they're both pretty blind. The way I do it, I just spin like a motherfucker on that shit. I spin like a motherfucker, and just like, that's what I had to do. Literally, when the first like 1 or 2 jumps I did, I'm like, okay, I really have to spin. Like I underestimated how much like I needed to spin to actually get that, but I was just whipping it as much as I could. And, you know, hopefully you just land the right way, I guess, you know. Had
you ever done it in like a skate park or anything before that? Or was that just the spot that you're like, no, this is going to be it?
No, I did it once from that I remember at, the skate park Faber, which is in Staten Island by me. I definitely post clips on Instagram all the time from there, but there's like a little down ledge, like knee height. I did it there when I had, when the 908s, I guess at the time, first came in the extra small.
Right.
I bought it extra small because I wanted the smallest skate. And it was just so small, light, and nimble. I was able to like jump higher and just spin more. And I'm like, let me see if I could do a 540 Royale on this. And I did it really easily with those skates on. And then I stubbed my toe also, and it was bleeding because they were too small. And that was the last time I rode them. But yeah, I haven't done anything since then. I've tried them back in the day. I remember being at a contest, like some New York contest during the Be Unique days, and trying to do that on a down rail. And I couldn't even come close to it. But it was something I always wanted to do. And I had a rail that I wanted to do it on in New York, but it was like wintertime in New York during that point. And then we were in Puerto Rico. It was like January or February or something like that. And it was right after I did that little narrow ledge roll to front side to 540 off.
Yeah.
It's also in there. So I did that, and that was in Puerto Rico. And literally right after that, I was just like hyped, I guess. And we saw that other rail, perfect rail, was like around the corner. So I was like, I'll just do it on this, because who knows, I could talk for the rest of the year and not go to that rail in New York that I want on 540 Royale. You know, we're here now. I'll just do it at this spot. And that's why I did it.
So wait, I thought you broke your ribs really early into the Puerto Rico trip.
No, that was Hawaii.
Hawaii, that was right.
Yeah. And then JP made a separate video on that, but that was actually the last day of the Hawaii trip. I broke my ribs, luckily.
Right. Okay,
yeah,
that makes more sense. Not Puerto Rico, Hawaii.
Yeah,
because I was like, if you're doing fakey 540 topsoils with broken ribs, that's
no way. Damn, breaking your ribs sucks. I can't imagine doing any. It took me so long to get back like to properly skating after that. But luckily, that was the last of the trips that we did that winter. So I was just got back into work as soon as I got home, and barely even skated last summer because I was so busy with work. But that was another reason also why it took forever to finish his part, because me and JP were both just so busy with work last year. Our schedules never lined up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so I can't believe you broke didn't you break your ribs doing just a sole on a kink reel? That's like your thing.
I know. Actually, we're talking about the soles and the kink rails and shit too. It was literally the first trick of the day, first jump of the day. Like we were trying to get, JP was trying to get clips of Franco because he had to work that day. It was like his lunch break or something. So we went to some spot. I saw that little tiny kink rail too. Like, what was it? Like 4 flat 4, something really small. And it just looked like such a welcoming rail. The kinks were like mellow. They waved. They weren't sharp. And we went to that spot, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but let me just warm up with the sole grind. And I guess I took it too easy, and I just, missed it. I definitely, had really worn in sole plates at that time. So I think it's happened to other rails also. That sole grind on the ender in the last section I did, it was like another sole on a drop kink rail, like a multi drop kink rail. But that one too, I kept falling off.
We're coming to that because I've got.
Okay, well that one I kept falling off also because my sole plates really went down.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So similar to that, like those are the only 2 times I just fell off a kink rail on a sole grind. And I wasn't expecting it at all. It just broke my rib right there. 2 ribs.
Right. Wow. Okay. Right. Well, actually, we'll get to that. We'll get to the ender. What's the New York rule on using your shin to correct your balance on kink rails?
So that's what we're getting at?
That's what we're getting at.
There was no marks on my leg. So even though it probably like touched like once or twice, something like that, there was no marks or anything like that. But yeah, that rail, it had like maybe like 6 inches or so above it. So like the side of my skate like was able to lean on it if I was falling over. So that's what made it like it kind of safe, that rail. But it's still, I think it looked cool anyway. And it was more of like that's a rail in New York that like a lot of people would see and go to and never expect anybody to do anything on. It's at the World Trade Center, which is like a highly, there's cops everywhere. Yeah. So we got lucky because I got kicked out by security, and I just said, fuck him. And I just jumped over him to the rail one time. And then he eventually left. And then there was a bunch of cops watching me while I did that on the street. And I'm like, I literally have 1 or 2 more tries for these cops to say something to me. And that was the one that I finally did. So that's like not a spot that you can normally skate anyway. It's super rare that people could skate that. So it was more just like leave like my mark on that like little area, just like that someone's done that, is pretty cool. Cause I don't think anybody would do anything like that in any other sport.
Yeah, totally. I was just wondering how much foul play was taking place with the balance on it, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. If you say the shins were clean, if
you bring me to that identical rail without that other top part on it, I'll do that shit within 2 tries.
You're like, I'm not having this, right?
So call me out all you want. Find me the same exact rail, I'll do that.
I also love the fact that you've reintroduced the AWOL, although it's actually like triggered me in other ways because as much as I loved seeing you execute it. You did one before. Was that Hawaii or Puerto Rico? You did one.
Oh, it was Hawaii. Yeah, it was Hawaii. Yeah,
on the little
handicap rail.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I was like, God, that's awesome. But then when you did it, the new one, oh my God. On the rollerblading Facebook thing, I just looked on, someone's put a screenshot of it and everyone's like calling it the dumbest fucking name.
What?
And I was like, I'm going to lose my mind with these people.
What are people calling it?
Someone's calling it a backslide. Someone's calling it a rough backslide. Someone's calling it like a rough soyal. Someone's calling it like
it's not right.
What was it? A hard soyal? Someone was calling it like someone was like, that's a wheelbarrow. Someone was like, that's. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to kill every single person in this group.
That's one of the problems with rollerblading, though. We don't have our name straight for like many of our tricks.
Name straight. It's an AWOL. If you roll it, it's a 9-bar. It has been since the 90s. People just either have short-term memory loss or didn't skate during that time and just want to like come in renaming shit. The person calling it a rough soyal, I was ready to burst into tears. It was
that's not even just like correct in any way because it's not a rough grind at all. It's a tough grind. And I never called it an AWOL back in the day. I remember back like when I started skating in the 90s, people did that once in a while. And I don't know if it was a New York thing or whatever, but I remember calling it a toyal back then.
I've heard a couple of people calling it that.
So that's what I still call it now. But I've heard AWOL just as much as toyal, and from at least my perspective anyway. So those are the two that I would consider acceptable also, you know, but all those other names that you just mentioned, I don't know about any of those. All suspect.
I definitely don't know about them either. Yeah, I'll give you the toyal, but yeah, whenever I saw them in like Daily Bread or DNA or Unity magazine, it was always, they were always and that was how anyone in the 90s decided what tricks were called. You saw it in a magazine, you were like, oh, well, that's what the Bible calls it. So that's what I'm going with. Yeah.
That's like the full torques on a Daily Bread. Cause I don't know anybody who's ever called it a full torque.
I would always call it a farv.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's actually like, yo, that full torque was sick. Like I never heard that ever. And it was always in Daily Bread that way too.
Yeah.
So
I think they just get sick of trying to spell Farvardnigan wrong, and because that was unbelievable. The but then there was also the period that like Sunny Days changed name as well, because it used to be porn star, topside porn star, alley topside porn star, and then all of a sudden they were like, oh, it's called a Sunny Day now, and we're like, wait, what? Like we're just changing trick names. Like
I don't know where any of that shit came from too. Have you ever called it a Sunny Day? I used to call it a Sunny Day. No. Like, I used to call it a Sunny Day. What about Cloudy Night? Alley top porn.
Yeah, I would always call it either like an alley top porn or an AOTP.
Yeah.
When people started coming out with that, and now people just do like a regular porn star and call it a Sunny Day, and I'm like, this is just getting upsetting. Like
I never seen that one. That would piss me off too.
The pedantic nature.
Or porn stars that look like sidewalks. And then calling them porn stars.
That also, like, see when you see that back foot just sliding about all over the place, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was no, it wasn't. That actually wasn't anything. That was a missed trick. You need to go back and try again."
Well, I could tell you're like an older guy as well, and you have like I feel like for people who have been in the game so long, we are like very true to like what a trick is, how you do the trick. It's only this way. If you do it any other way, it's something else, or it's just wrong. You know.
I mean, I don't feel like being a gatekeeper. I think like stuff like I'm all for no grabs. No grabs is fine, but you can't not lock on to a trick.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Like, just get that. Yeah.
It's like most people know like the Philly rule, like how like strict all those guys were, like Frederick Shoot and stuff like that. Like New York was pretty similar with that also. I think Philly might have taken it to another extreme, like they weren't allowing negative stuff.
But that point, I think having a certain like standard, being like, well, no, like if you like stumble off the trick, or if like you can't hold a roll from it, then you know maybe you didn't lace it like you think you did.
Yeah, well, especially at the time when there was set tricks and like that was it, that was all you could do, that's whatever. But now people are taking things to so many different levels. There's like slight room for error, but yeah, for the most part, if you are doing like a topsoul, like that should be a topsoul. If you are doing a porn star, your feet should be locked a certain way, otherwise it's either something else or just nothing at all.
Yep. It was quite funny at the Brian Aragon night at the movies when I was talking to him about, because obviously we're watching these sections, and I was like, so looking back in this years later, you going to claim that, you know, the curve ledge in Colorado?
Yeah.
I think he does like front torque down it, or maybe it's in sprint is a torque slide variation, but his foot like very clearly like kicks the top of it like halfway along, and I'm like, so are we claiming that all these years later? And he's like, well, obviously not, like we obviously can't take that. And I was like, well, I'm glad that even the robotic prince has got like a flaw in his section where you can go, right, yeah.
Well, was that his fault, or was that whoever edited the section's fault?
True, but surely, you know, he's getting approval. No, you're not
Not always. I don't think always. No, like there's definitely been a lot of videos back in the day where I know the mind game videos, they didn't approve them by the writers until the video came out. So I don't know if that clip was from a mind game video or not, but if it was a mind game video,
I think it was an Adam Johnson one. I think.
Okay, so I don't know how AJ. Yeah, I don't know how AJ works with that stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people who make videos where they don't show the skater of the section. So like you don't see it until the DVD or the VHS, whatever comes out. At that point, it's not the skater's fault. Like, it's like, why'd you use that clip of me? I didn't do it. So either Brian's trying to own it or he's just playing it off. I don't know.
If it didn't count, you would think that would have came to light at the session, maybe, because Brian would have been like, no, definitely felt my foot touch, or the filmer would be like, whoa, you're not taking that. Like,
that's true.
Get back up there.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it can go either way. And I know AJ's a really strict filmer too. So I'd be really surprised if AJ let a trick like that slide.
Maybe he just didn't have enough footage to fill the slot, and he's like, this is going to have to do it.
I guess. I don't know. Well, you'll get AJ on the show one day and you ask him about that.
I will never get AJ on the show because he has never once replied to a single message that I've tried to get him on. So that's never going to happen.
Okay. So it'll always be a mystery then.
I keep waiting for the Marius Gale announcement as well, because Marius has started ghosting me, and I'm like, that motherfucker's going on Jumpstreet. That's what's happening here.
We didn't talk to him about that, as far as I know. So
Jeff Howard all over again. We won't get into it. Jeff Howard gate. Love you, Jeff. I'm only messing. So what would you say? There was a lot of like creativity in that part, which I feel like had been like more missing from your other section, because before I always thought of you as like the kind of Abdil Kohlberg type skater. Like everything's done really precise, the landings are always really good, like the legs are always really tucked, like everything's done like you said, like old school, like as you know, the gatekeepers think it should be done. But I've never really thought of you as like the guy that like thinks outside the box and does like weird tricks that no one's expecting. In this section, you had quite a lot of that. You like it feels like you've taken like a lot of outsider influences that you previously wouldn't, because the old Austin Paz was not into that stuff at all.
I am the old Austin Paz.
Like, I feel like your old self would have went, that's nonsense. We're not doing that.
Of course, but that's just a progression of skating. Yeah. That was like, and that was another reason too why I was like, I hit up JP. So we started filming this in 2020, like when the pandemic hit. Like my first clip in that section was from like March 2020, like right as soon as the
nighttime Times Square one.
No, before that, the first clip I got in that was the line I did. It was like lefty topsoul on like a shorter out ledge, drop it, then 360 topsoul, the steep down rail. So that was the first clip I got. That was like March 2020. So yeah, but it was like by the time 2022 hit, I'm like, yo, JP, we gotta like put this shit out. And part of the reason was because my skating was already changing so much so quickly that I just wanted to get all that stuff out there, because I already looked back. We cut so much stuff out because I look back on it. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't even like accept that now. Like, I don't even, I'm just got so much better at that kind of skating that it wasn't good enough to put out anymore. So it just, progression changes so fast. And the whole style of skating is so new to me that it's just like starting skating from the ground up again. It's like when you do your first soul grind, and then a year later, after you've done 1,000 soul grinds, you look back on that and you're like, oh, that was shit. Yeah. Like I thought I laced it back then, but I didn't really. So that's how I kind of felt with a lot of those tricks. It was like not my style, my quote style, I guess. And it was new to me. And I'm just experimenting, messing around with different tricks, see what sticks, what doesn't. I got inspired by a lot of different people over the last year or two. So just trying new ways to skate. And especially going to skate spots that you've skated at a million times before and being able to do something different because you skate differently now it makes it all fun again. So there was definitely a lot of that in that section, which is why I'm happy it turned out the way it did. Because it was in my opinion, a good mix of like rails and bigger tricks, as well as, sliding around or doing whatever.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
And I would have never had that in any section back in the day. So that's like what made me particularly proud about this part.
That's what I was going to ask. How do you think it holds up to like your other parts that you've had through the years? Do you think that is your best part that you've made, or do you think there's other parts that, I don't know, when you were younger or going bigger that you think could hold their own against it?
No, it's similar like what Alex Brosco said at the night at the movies also. It's like, which section is like your favorite? It's like always the last section is always my favorite. And that is definitely true for me in this one. It's the most diverse. It's the time I spent the longest to film for. We did a lot of traveling for it. So there's like a lot that got involved in it. I do like I did make an edit of my own for my 20 years skating, which I like because it's like sentimental value. It's on YouTube. Yeah. But as far as like the level of skating and generally just how it's all put together, this is definitely my favorite part out of all of them.
I would agree as well. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
What was the hardest trick to get?
That's funny because JP was just texting me right before this about something else. Maybe I hate to keep talking about these damn soles on kink rails, but the Stuyvesant rail in New York where I did sole to top sole on it I worked for that one. It was the one at night at the curved kink rail, the one that Farmer 360 sole grinds and underestimated.
Yeah.
Yeah, sole to top sole on that literally I think took me like almost 3 hours to do.
Okay.
We went there. That was also during the pandemic, 2020. I was like, oh, it'll be perfect because you kind of can't really skate it during the day because there's so much foot traffic there. So you have to be there at night. And we went there. Part of like what made the pandemic easy was being able to drive into the city and parking literally wherever you want. So we would like literally park like right on the corner, skated that. I think we started around like 11 o'clock. And I was like, okay, cool. 11 o'clock. I'll be home by like midnight. I just want to get this trick and head out. And I think I was there to like 1 or like 1:30, something like that. Or maybe we started at 10 o'clock. I don't remember, but it was like a 3-hour battle with that trick.
Does JP not get home to his wife and she's like, what fucking time do you call this?
I don't know how JP does any of the shit that he pulls off, but yeah, I don't know. But
full-time job, wife, family, and then he's like, so I'm dipping out and I'll be back middle of the night. She's like, you're cheating on me, aren't you? And he's like, no, I'm filming skating. She's like,
that's JP right there. That's JP. That's what he does. And even like the ender, the soul grind, and the shin soul grind, if you want to call it that. I remember in raw footage of that, I say, oh, now JP, he had home in Thanksgiving dinner. I think that was like the day before Thanksgiving, and he was supposed to have like Thanksgiving dinner. And I was like, let me get this one trick. And I held him back, I think, by doing that. So sorry about that, JP.
You can roast. I also saw that he's going to be the next guest on Jumpstreet. I love talking to JP. He was a lot of fun, so I can imagine that's going to be a really good episode.
I hope he drinks a little bit before he comes on.
Oh, does he get a little bit loose-lipped when he drinks?
No, he's just like a funny guy just in general. But it's our show tomorrow is at noon New York time, so he's hopefully not going to be drunk for that one. Then we got a problem, a more serious problem on our hands.
This is true. Also on a Thursday, shouldn't he be at work?
I mean, he has like freelance video as far as I know, or like just his own business video stuff. So he doesn't have like a set schedule or anything. It's just whenever he's not on a shoot, pretty much.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you about Jumpstreet, but before that, you mentioned it earlier, like after you finished The Truth 2, everyone went their separate ways. I know from watching all the episodes of Jumpstreet, I know so many people have asked about The Truth and why he's never did another one. And like, I get it, but Did you guys kind of all lose contact as well then? Because I feel like when you all went your separate ways, the impression I've kind of got from the first couple of years of Jumpstreet is that, you and the Kelsos maybe didn't keep in contact as much, because when you did that first episode with them, it was kind of like the first like half, I would say, it was kind of like awkward, and it was kind of like you guys were like getting to know each other again. You met up before the episode and were like chatting and stuff, but it kind of felt like you were feeling each other out for the first part of it.
I think the main reason for that was because that was like our first real episode and we had no idea what the hell we were doing. It was like, because we did the first inaugural episode, which was just me and Billy, but I think I'm pretty sure the Kelsos was the first episode that we did with a guest. I think that was our second episode. So it was, we like had no idea what the hell we were doing, how we were going to do it. We just like kind of figured it out. So that was probably a big reason why it felt awkward. We definitely never lost contact with each other, but you know, like when we're all different, like we're all like different parts of the country doing our own things. You know, I stayed in New York, you know, the Kelsos are doing their thing, their basement stuff in Philly, and Billy's like doing the Shredweiser stuff, you know, all those years in Oakland. I don't know. It's just like, sure, we stay in touch with each other, like messages here and there, but it's super rare. That was probably the first time we were all together in the same room in like 10 years or something, you know, who knows when the last time that happened.
Yeah.
So
also I'm pretty sure like Colin and Billy maybe clashed a little bit after Colin quit USD. I'm sure there was a little bit of like back and forth between them at one point, but yeah.
oh yeah, there was. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about any of that now, but yeah, I do remember that now that you mentioned it.
Then, you know, during that period, Colin was clashing with a lot of people, so I'm sure Colin might not even remember.
Yeah, that's part of it too. But yeah, no, we all like, we're all brothers. You know, we've known each other long enough. We know who we are as people. We've, you know, when you travel with people, when you spend so much time with people, like on tours and stuff like that, you know somebody inside and out almost at that point. So, I mean, I'm sure you know this too. Yeah, we're all brothers. You know, it's like just like how I talked about with Chris and Courtney Brown from Be Unique. Like when I saw them at Alex's funeral, I feel like we didn't skip a beat. Like we were still like, it's like I felt like last week we were just skating together at the skate park or something, you know, and that's how it always is. But yeah, it was probably awkward because it was the first episode we had guests on the podcast and we had no idea what the hell we were doing.
I took like, yeah, I mean, Jumpstreet just kind of came out of nowhere, and like from the like get-go, I feel like it's just been a raging success. Like, you know, you've had, when you were just doing it at the Staten Island, well, at your home essentially, you've got the luxury of pros basically passing through town all the time. So you've got this like steady wave of guests that you can have. You obviously know what you're doing with, you know, filming and lighting and editing and stuff like that. You've had like a lot of experience with it. Billy is, you know, he's cocky. He's a natural showman. Like if you shove a camera in his face, you know, he's going to start performing. So I feel like it was a great marriage, and it's worked well until now. Like, are you know, you guys are over 100 episodes deep.
Yeah.
All this stuff. You've been to all these events. Like, are you surprised by how well it's done?
I don't know if I would say surprised. I am more impressed by the fact that we're still doing it, maybe, but that's part due to the little bit of success that we've had. Like people still enjoy watching it. People still are excited to be on the show. So that is part of what keeps us going. When we started it, obviously Billy was in New York at the time. So like you said, we were able to do it here in person. It was like something different that skating didn't see at the time. We were lucky enough that it is New York and people were coming in and out constantly. Like we didn't have any point where we like were running out of a guest to have on. Like it was so constant, and this was pre-pandemic too. So it was like traveling wasn't tough, you know, because I could imagine if Billy was in New York, we would have had like a whole year and a half or something like that where nobody was coming to New York because of travel restrictions. But yeah, he left and we ended up doing it virtually anyway. I don't remember what the point of me talking about this was. Oh yeah, but no, it's, I'm happy to see that we've gone this far, because that's the problem with a lot of ambitious ideas that skaters might have. They might start an endeavor and then it only lasts a certain amount of time and that's it. And a lot of people did start like podcasts during the pandemic and they haven't necessarily lasted, or they slowed down a lot, which we're trying to keep as consistent and as constant as possible. We love doing it and we want to do it more and more. And people like have asked me like if I had a favorite guest and stuff like that. And I'm like, I never do, because it's always like, I always do an episode with somebody. I'm like, damn, that was so awesome. Like that was my favorite episode. Then I'll do the next one. I'm like, no, that was my favorite episode. Like it's still enjoyable to do. So I'm happy that people are enjoying it as much as we are, because we like to keep doing this for as long as we can.
Can't believe you didn't name Walt Austin as one of your favorite guests. That's, you know,
that's a given.
He's your favorite skater, and you're not even going to give him the shine of being one of your favorite. He came across really well. He came across just as I pictured him. The only Like,
Oh, just on the podcast, you mean?
yeah. Like,
Oh, okay.
He's always came across as weirdly. He got in contact with me like out of nowhere about couple of months back, just to be like, I know you're a geek. Has this song never been in a skate video? And I was like,
Is that all he said to you?
basically. And I was like, nah. I was like, nah, that song definitely hasn't been used. And I was like, that's really strange that he's got in contact with me, because why would you know who I am? But yeah, but he's always, that's what I like blunt, straight shooting, like no bullshit people that you just, they tell you what's on their mind rather than you have to be like, does this person like me or whatever? Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
But I mean, I'm paraphrasing. It wasn't that blunt, but it was very much along those lines. But the only episodes of Jump Street that I have been disappointed by is when the person isn't like they used to be, or doesn't kind of live up to the expectation of the person, and that's not their fault.
Absolutely.
Like people just change over time. Like, the person that used to be cocky and arrogant and like the showman is no longer that guy, or like. I'm not going to start like listing them off, but then there's people who are exactly like you remember, like people like Jeff Fredericks, yeah.
Jeff Fredericks, yeah.
Like he always came across as like that loud, obnoxious, hilarious guy, and then he comes on your show, tans about 3 bottles of white wine, and is just everything that you like always had in your head of him being, and is still utterly hilarious. So like when stuff like that happens, you're like, that is great. That is, or like Mike, like Murda has just always been that goofy, geeky, hilarious guy, and then he comes on the show and he's that and so much more.
Yeah,
he remembers all the stories, and you're like, that's unbelievable. But there's people that come on that just completely blank. Like Abdul Koberg came on, and he was in USD at like the transition period of it being, DL, Kevin Gillen, Arlo, Julio, and all that, to then the new generation, and he could not remember a single story from his entire blading career. How is that possible?
I don't know. I think people get really nervous. I mean, you should know this too. People get like really nervous when they do interviews like this and stuff, and especially when it's live, it's a little more intimidating, I guess. We've had guests that are like, we're talking before the show, everything's like, we're super loose, like chatting it up, whatever, and then like as soon as it starts, they're like a deer in the headlights kind of thing, and then they starting to loosen up throughout the show, but it's just people aren't used to being put on the spot like that, and that's kind of, I'm not gonna say a problem in skating, but like another reason why we wanted to start Jump Street was to build this a little bit, because like what if skating was in the X Games next year or the Olympics, and like people were getting interviewed and stuff like that, like our skaters just going to be in front of a camera like I'm happy to be here, like get like some practice in, real athletes have that, so I mean that's like a small part of everything, but it's something like I definitely thought about too as well. Like people, if someone is trying to be pro, whatever, you should be used to being comfortable in front of cameras and people and having interviews and conversations. That's definitely something that I lacked when I was young and trying to be pro at that point. I was like the shyest, quietest, little closed off kid ever. And I wish I was the complete opposite at the time. But that's all part of it too. And like you said, then the opposite end, like people like Murda come on, or Jeff Fredericks come on, and they're like the same person you remember. And that's what makes some of those shows some of our like fan favorites, because same thing with Brian Shima too. Like Brian Shima became easily one of our top episodes because after not being around for so long, he came back for that interview and he like lived up to everyone's expectations and everyone's hype. So people like gain even more respect for these people like that, even if it's years after they've stopped skating.
Yeah. Although there was one thing Brian Shima said in his, and I was like, I'm calling bullshit on that. I don't know if I believe a word that just came out your mouth there, but yeah, I'm sure at one point he said that his first mind game part in Brain Fear Gone was just all
fillers.
And I was like, fuck off, Brian. Fuck off. Like,
yeah.
He was like, oh yeah, that's just the stuff we didn't want to use for coup d'etat. And I was like, no.
I know, it's pretty funny, right?
No. No one is buying that.
That's just the level that he's at. He looks back on that. Because when you think about, I mean, I'm not going to speak for him, but look at all the shit he's done after that. Fucking insane. So looking back on that, you're like, I understand, But
there was still stuff in the mind game part that leveled up on the stuff that he did in the USD section. So for him to say, oh yeah, that was just the throwaways, No. And also, do you think Shane would accept that? Do you think Shane Coburn and Dustin Latimer, of all people, would go, oh yeah, we'll just take the B-roll. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be really interesting to know that if we had DL and Shane and them all in a room together talking about that. That would be insane.
Yeah. I know that Billy's asked Dustin a few times. I'm assuming he's asked Shane as well, because Shane's been to a few blading cups, and I imagine you guys will have crossed paths. No?
Yeah. I mean, I never met Shane before. Billy obviously knows him because he wrote for Mind Game. I'm sure Billy has asked him and something has happened. And I don't know, like it's happened so many times that like people also don't understand it too. People like want to see a certain person on the show. And I'm sure you have the same problem as well. Like people sometimes don't want to do it. Like they don't want to do it no matter how hyped they are. They don't want to do it.
I feel like that happens to me a lot more than it happens to you guys. People aren't as likely to say no to Austin Paz and Billy O'Neill as they are to bald random guy from Scotland.
It still happens though. It still happens. And it's nothing that we could do about it, but it has to be something that is understanding for people. Yeah. Like, I mean, I can't remember. Billy would have been the one to have asked Shane, and I don't know what happened with that, but I mean, if it happens, it happens. If not, whatever. We can't be mad about it.
Who else has turned you down? I need to know. Because
I've got a list. Dustin.
I've got a list of about 50.
You said Dustin, so that's one.
Right.
I think we've asked Alex too, because Alex Brosco has been a huge request.
Alex isn't a talker. That goes. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, he and like Danny Beer, they're like, oh, we want to do like in person or an event, and then like you go to an event and like they're busy doing stuff the whole time or whatever, so it's kind of tough for that. I can't think of offhand many other people who have turned us down, but it's usually like the bigger names that people want to see.
Yeah,
they're obviously busy and have other things to do and whatever their reasons might be, but you got to respect everything that everybody wants to do. I'm not mad at anybody for turning us down for not being on the show.
Oh, like definitely the whole point. Yeah. All you can do is ask. And if they're not into it, that's their right.
Exactly. And we've also learned in the past too, that like asking people or like not forcing them, but like I guess you could say kind of pushing it on them to be on the show when they don't want to be on it also brings out a bad podcast, and it'll help. It's not good all around. Like a podcast should be natural.
Yeah.
Both people should be comfortable, and everyone just has to be understanding of that, because that's going to bring out the best experience for you, the listener.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Yeah. If you coerce them into it and they're not going to open up because they're like, exactly, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want that at all, because it's going to make just a bad episode. And it's going to make it hard, especially for like someone like you, the interviewer, like, it's like, oh, you're not giving me anything. You have to kind of feed off each other. You know, you can't just, it's not like an old school, like interview for like a magazine or something like that. You ask a question and get an answer and that's it. Like there's a conversation happening here. Like we're both genuinely interested to be talking to each other. Like you need that kind of synergy to make a good podcast.
Yeah. That is quite funny that you should mention that, because I had that exact experience. Well, I didn't force the person onto the interview. Their sponsor did.
Ooh.
And it was Levy Van Rijn.
Oh, really?
But it was before I was doing the podcast. It was just interviews. But I've always done all the interviews for any article, either face to face or on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I had all these audio files ready to be a podcast, and I wanted to make like an archive of it, but I could never get the quality good enough. And then you guys started Jumpstreet, and I was like, well, now I don't need to do it. But then as time went on, and like obviously technology improved and stuff like that, I was like, oh, I could now start using Zoom to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had all these audio recordings, but one of them was with Levy, and I can't remember whether it was Cavan or Peter, but they were doing the adapt video, and they're like, you need to speak to Levy. He's going to be the star of the video. And I was like, never spoke to the guy. I don't know anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
No, you like, and they basically like coerced both of us into it. And then Levy just gave me one word answers to every question. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to write an article about this.
It's rough.
And now we've just wasted each other's time. And I still put out an art, and it was the worst. It's definitely the worst interview that was ever out on the website. You learned nothing about him. And I was just like, he just didn't want to be there.
Yeah. And that sucks, because Levy's such an awesome guy, awesome skater, and I'm sure people would want to learn more about him. And it's not necessarily his fault, maybe, but when it's not natural and not meant to be, it's a bad look.
Yep. At some points, Kevin was even answering for him, and I was like, "Why? Like this? This makes no sense. You can't give answers for someone else."
Yeah, it's not Kevin's interview.
But yeah, I fully get that. Also, were you aware that you, for the first year of Jumpstreet Podcast, had your own viral catchphrase?
What was it?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you did all that. I didn't know that at all. Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
Did you?
I didn't know that.
I was tempted to actually go through the first 10 episodes and just like cut them out and make a little montage. I might still do that.
You should do that. Do that for my birthday, please.
But that became like an ongoing joke, and it led me to believe, because I always thought, like, you and Billy O'Neill have known each other for years, right? I only actually learned this like in recent years, that he was the one that basically got you on. Oh, what the?
I don't know. Wilson's falling apart. Wilson headquarters falling apart.
This is like Billy's Wi-Fi all over again.
What, you got a lamp falling down?
I actually broke this lamp less than a week ago and had to get another one. But this one's up.
There we go.
That was weird. Yeah, it was, and the catchphrase that you had only came out at specific moments, which I was not the only person to realize. People actually started like contacting me to like ask me if I'd like spotted it. It was only when Billy told tour stories.
Tour stories.
Yeah. So tour stories. So like he would tell a story about being in a foreign country with USD or Power Slide or something like that. And tell this really like engaging. So, and then afterwards you'd always be like, "Wow, I did not know that." We're like, I thought these guys had known each other for years. Like
you came to me with something like that somewhat recently too. I don't remember the exact situation, but you messaged me like, "How the hell didn't you know that? Like you two like knew each other for so long and you didn't know these things." And I'm like, I'm just as surprised as you are. I didn't know that. What do you want from me? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember what. Yeah, do
you remember? Like it was like a couple months ago, probably.
It might. Oh, I'm pretty sure that was drunken texts. I can go back and look, but yeah,
it was drunken text.
Actually, because it couldn't have been it wasn't long after like the first Blade Shade, because I remember you sent me like a sarcastic response being like, "You can shove it in the next episode."
And you did put it in the next episode, and I don't remember what it was exactly. It was in this like the second episode of Blade Shade or something like that.
What was that? Now I'm going to need to go back and check.
There was a little story behind that too, at least from my side of it. But like I said, I don't remember what the topic was.
A recent episode of Jump Street with Dominic Sagona, Austin Paz blasphemed Senate, claiming it died after Dominic, Randy, Louis, and Josh left to start Second Regime.
Weren't you on Senate for like a week?
Yeah.
Or something like that? How do you on Senate for a week? Because the Senate was like the biggest company. I mean, maybe it wasn't at the time. That's why it was so easy to just like leave. But because I think you went to Second Regime or something like that, right? At that time, it was definitely the right choice because Senate was probably already on its way out at that time, if I'm correct.
You are not correct, Austin Paz. Clearly, he doesn't remember the excellent second Senate video Stand Fast, which featured the world's first Fakey 360 True Top Soyale from Blake Dennis, showcased arguably Shane Scour's best section to date, had the Aaron Feinberg Ender section that turned every skater into a Weezer fan overnight, and this epic two-word quote from Bruno Louve.
Are you going to grind it, Bruno, or stall? Grind it.
Yep, I've completely blanked on that. Yeah, I've had coronavirus all week, so I've been dying.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, just flu symptoms, something like, dude, that is really annoying. I'm not going to be. Yeah, it's gone out my head.
I just fucked up the whole episode. My bad.
I'll shove the clip in as soon as I look at it.
But now we can't talk about it now. So,
but yeah, it led me to believe that like you and Billy must have lost contact for a while, especially when he moved to the West Coast, and then there was just all this, because these were, when he was telling the stories on the podcast, they were the kind of stories that you would, if you came off tour and you were with your friends, it would be the first thing you tell them. Like, I'm sure It may even have been like the chocolate story, like the one where he went on tour and only get paid in chocolate. And I'm sure afterwards at the end you were like, wow, I did not know that. But then there was one about Valo. That was it. I asked you about Billy getting offered to be on Valo, and they ended up giving his spot to Alex Brosco instead.
Oh, okay.
On the podcast, you made it look like you'd never heard that story, but when I
I didn't. That was the first time I heard it.
You liar!
I'm trying to think
you
of
absolute
exactly.
liar! Because you told me that Billy was the one that got you on Valo.
Yeah. So what was the scenario then? I don't get what's going on here.
Like basically, Billy got offered a slot on Valo when it first started, and then he couldn't ride the skates or something, or didn't get on with the skates. And then he basically gave his position to you, but then the kind of story was that Brosco got it instead or something.
All right, so I don't think
he gave the skates to you. Is that not what happened?
Okay, so I don't think you're talking about I don't think you have the whole story right now. You did when you came to me with it. I think this part's maybe missing, but I think John wanted Billy to ride for Valo. He gave him a pair of the Hemps before the Hemps were out. It was just the TV ones were out at the time. So it was like a prototype skate or something like that. He gave Billy the skates, and I think he couldn't pay Billy as much as USD offered to pay him at the time. So he went to USD instead and passed up. But he was like, hey, my buddy Austin, who no one even knows who the hell he is, like likes the skates. So like, would you want him to ride for like Flow or something like that? And then that's how I started riding for Valo. Billy introduced me to him for that, but I don't know. And then I guess that's what he said, that Alex went on after him.
I'm sure he said that on the podcast, but then you told me a different story on our podcast.
Yeah, there's a piece missing there, because I knew exactly when I was talking to you about it what was going on, and there has to be something missing from this story that we can't piece together right now.
Right. But yeah, that happened like quite a lot like the first year, and I was like, all right, I thought these guys were really tight, but then obviously you move to different parts of the country and you're both having experiences.
Yeah.
So it was just quite interesting the amount of times that Billy would just tell a little tidbit from, especially when someone from USD came on or someone from Mind Game came on and would share a story, and then he'd be like, oh, that happened to me as well. And you'd be like, whoa, what, really?
Like I said, I'm just as surprised by it as you are. I only know what he tells me or what anybody tells me. So if some crazy story happened that I don't know about, and he just chose not to tell me for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll let you off easy on that one.
I wish I had a better answer for you for that one.
Right. Another thing I noticed is, as New Yorkers, you guys always claim that you're like big shit talkers, right? And that you roast each other and bust each other's balls. Like you guys literally mention that all the time. What I've noticed is you never once do it on the podcast. Like even with people that are your friends, people that you guys have known and skated with for decades, you guys never give anyone any shit ever.
I think it's more of like as you were growing up and your kids just fucking around type of shit, that like you become like a shit talker and you call people out for certain things. I don't know. Are you talking about like just we have other New Yorkers on the show?
Yeah, or even just between you and Billy. Like you and Billy don't ever really roast each other on the podcast about anything.
I don't know. I can't say what it's about. I don't know. Maybe we're just older and more mature now. We're not like that anymore. I don't know.
I don't know if I believe that.
I don't know. I can't give you an answer for that one either. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure if you two are at the session together, there's still shit talking taking place.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the vibe is different at the session rather than, on the podcast, but definitely growing up as kids, you're fucking big shit talkers and you pick on people and you might say things to people to get them to do something different or to push them or something like that. So that definitely happens. And that's probably largely what we're talking about with that. But I just think for now, we're just a little older, more mature. We're not like just poking at each other like we were when we were younger.
Okay. The closest I think I've heard you specifically come to like making fun of anyone was when you said you went to film with the Kelsos again after like quite a long break of not hanging out with them, and you were just a bit disturbed by how close Sean was getting with the fisheye, and you're like, man, get that, that's literally right on me, like get that
That's
away.
shit talking to you.
That I said that's the closest. Like I feel like for having a reputation for being like tough talking East Coast guys, you actually come across as like disturbingly nice on the podcast.
Well, that's the thing. People, and my girlfriend who's from New Jersey still doesn't understand this. New Yorkers are such nice people. Did you hear that? New Yorkers are such nice people. Yes, shut up. Yes, we come off as assholes sometimes. Yes, we're assholes to each other, but New Yorkers are generally nice people.
I like how she's peeking her head through the side. Also, wait a minute. Isn't New Jersey renowned for having like equally assholish behavior? No?
He said, isn't Jersey known for having equally assholish behavior?
No. New York sucks.
Get out of here. Close the door,
Get
please.
out of here.
I know. I'm just saying. The New Yorkers have a reputation for that. And I think a lot of people who visit New York experience that too. It's kind of like if you need directions somewhere and you ask somebody on the street, like a New Yorker will happily help you out and give you directions or point you in the right direction. But then you step on their fucking shoes and like, get the fuck out of my face. I'm gonna smack you or something like that, you know? So it's like, it's just a different vibe. You know, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
We're genuinely nice people though.
I mean, I've only ever been once. I was 15. So it was a very different time. It was the late 90s. Late 90s. So it was a very, very different time in New York.
Yeah. And your angle, perspective on that was probably a little different back then as well. As a 15-year-old.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was a child. I was like, this is the busiest place on earth. This is equally exciting and terrifying in the same amount. Yeah.
What did you come to New York for at 15?
My dad worked in air traffic control, so we used to get free standby flights. So basically, if there's enough seats in the plane, they let you on. If there's not, you don't get on the flight. And we managed to get a flight to New York out of it, and weren't there for long, for like 5 or 6 days, but went to Riverside Skate Park.
Oh, really?
Went to the bandstand that was in Hoax.
The Central Park?
Yeah, the one that they used to like dance in front of.
Yeah.
With the benches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went there and I was like, wow, Rollinson misty flipped off this. Okay.
Yeah.
Where else? Went to the skates, the big skate shop. The
Blades?
Blades, that was what it's called.
Yeah.
And then went to another tiny skate shop that was in a basement.
I don't know that one.
I don't. And it was pre-internet as well. So I don't really know how my parents figured this stuff out, but
how did we figure out anything before the internet? It was crazy, right?
Do you ever whenever I drive anywhere, I turn on sat nav or put like my phone on to like even if it's like going to my sister's house, I'll be like, all right, fastest route home, and then I'm like, how did we do this before? I do it all
the time too, because you never know. There's on your, even if it's like a 10-minute drive, it could be an accident right there. The fastest way to avoid that, you know. I always do the same thing.
There could be a diversion that could end up screwing you over. That's it as well. Like you'll see a diversion, you're like, right, I'll just tell the sat nav, and then the sat nav. Otherwise, you're just lost. Yeah.
I remember one of the first road trips I ever took, driving from Miami to Toronto with my buddy Jay Greendyke. It was 2004, 2005 or something like that. So technology was out then, but I was, I don't know, 15, 16. He was like 17, 18 or something like that. So there was no iPhones. There was no Apple Maps, Google Maps, nothing like that. So I remember we had the Atlas in the car and we were like, okay, we're going from Miami to Atlanta. We got to look at the map and like find the roads that connect each other, because we didn't have MapQuest or anything or smartphones back then. And just looking at the map, like, oh, we got to make this turn. And like, I couldn't imagine doing that nowadays. No way.
Yeah. Like I've never been in a situation where I've ran out of petrol in the car and just been stranded. But thinking back on it, I don't know how that never happened, how we just never got so lost that, wild.
Dude, that happened to us on the drive from, we were doing, there was Bitter Cold Showdown, and then in the summer they had Steel Valley Meltdown, and it only lasts like a year or two or something like that. But so it was in the summertime. We were driving. It was like the B&E guys. It was like me, Billy, Chris, Courtney, Franco Camayo. I don't remember who else, but we were in Franco's car, and his all the gauges on his dashboard didn't work. So he had we just trusted Franco. He was like, always like, I know when she's thirsty, boys. Don't worry, I know when she's thirsty. And then of course, we'd run out of gas like in the middle of nowhere in like Ohio or Pennsylvania. There's nothing around us. It's like 100 degrees outside, stuck on the side of the road. And I remember like Billy and Courtney just put the skates on. They skated into town. They skated like however 10, 15 miles into town to get like a gallon of gas to fill the tank up. So yeah, that's just, I can't believe you never ran out of gas before.
Yeah. Although Scotland's a pretty small, like you can literally drive from one like the east coast of Scotland to the west coast of Scotland, like 2 hours.
Super small.
Like,
yeah,
like Scotland. If Scotland was in America, it'd be the smallest state in America. In fact, it would probably fit inside the smallest state of America.
No, I think Rhode Island's the smallest state in America. It's like probably like a half hour to drive across Rhode Island. I think it's tiny.
Okay.
That's like the only one though, probably.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Getting back to Jumpstreet, you guys have also achieved quite a. I forgot to ask when your girlfriend was there. How's her leg?
Oh yeah, thank you. It's getting better. She just started walking recently.
Walking,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
She's not supposed to be. Don't tell the doctor.
No.
But she's like she's ready to go. She's like, I gotta get back again. I gotta like be walking. I gotta skate. I gotta do whatever. So she's walking again. It's getting better. She still has like months and months to recover because she has so much metal in her leg. But physical therapy is helping, and hopefully she'll be back skating before the winter starts, so that we can skate a little more before the cold starts to get here.
Because she's a fitness nut as well, right? So that must be driving her crazy.
Yeah. So she's always like doing something, which is super hard for her now because she can't do any of that. So yeah, she can't go to the gym. She can't skate. She still comes to the sessions though. So she's still like involved a little bit. So, but she'll be back soon.
Yeah,
she's definitely,
she's
ahead of
fun
schedule.
being the injured one at the session. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I like doing that too. When I broke my ribs last year, I was still going to as many sessions as I could just to like be there, like I had the time to do it. So why not? I would just go and just sit there and talk shit because that's what we do, right?
But not on the podcast.
Not on the podcast.
Not on the podcast.
All right, I'll make a note now. I'll do more shit talking on the podcast for you.
Just like mental note.
Okay.
Even with the Kelsos, that's what I was quite surprised by. Like Kelsos, Philly guys, they even mentioned it at one point that they felt like, I'm sure Colin was the first time Sean and Colin were on. Colin said that he didn't feel it was like socially acceptable to like do stuff like that anymore, or at least do it in like public, on a public forum, because you didn't know the kind of backlash you would get from just like harmless like jibes, basically.
Yeah, I see that too, because the way that we talk to each other is not how everyone else talks to each other, and they might take some sort of offense to that. And this day and age, everybody takes offense to everything. So you do have to be a little careful about what you say, but I'm not worried about any of that because I don't think I would say anything too offensive anyway, But I could see how guests and other people would say the same, though. People got to be super cautious because everyone gets canceled for everything.
This is true. I'm treading a very thin line. But
I was about to say, you better watch your mouth, Dave.
I'm just getting cancelled by all the skate companies, so it's fine. You can't miss advertising money that you've never had in the first place.
By your blade shade.
Yeah. I don't even think it's that. I think it's quite tame in comparison to what I could say. Oh God, you made me totally lose my train of thought there. Yeah. So in addition to obviously having the guests, it being successful, you guys have also done like, good things as well. Like you've raised money, you got skates to, was it Nigeria or Ghana or one of
we sent it to a few places, but yeah, Nigeria was one of the places.
Like, so with stuff like that, like what is like the kind of proudest achievement of Jumpstreet in that respect? Because you guys, I feel like in addition to providing entertainment, you've also done good for the community as well.
I like to think that we have in some way or another. Yeah, we did the donate and skate. It was a lot. We didn't do it. We never done anything like that before. We didn't even know what it takes to ship skates all over the world like that. It was a lot more work than we thought, but equally, we were overwhelmed by the amount of support we've had by everybody. Me and Billy each had, because Billy did a donate and skate in California, in Long Beach, where he lived, and I did one in New York. And I literally, my car, there was no room for anything else in my car because I had so much gear, so many skates. Every seat in my car to the roof was filled. My trunk was completely filled. I live on the second floor in an apartment. So like I had to like run like 20 trips up and down to like bring all these skates up. And I hit a Billy. I'm like, I have so much shit. He's like, me too. We have like way too much stuff. He had like 70 pairs of skates. I had like 60, 70 pairs of skates. So it was nice to see everyone come together for that. It's good to know that we're all still here supporting each other. I feel like it's kind of always been like that, but you see it now more often because a lot of people are doing their part to do better for the community and help out less fortunate people. As well as the donations, like we had like a little over $4,000 in donations to ship everything across the world. which seems like a lot of money, but we learned that it's not a lot of money at all. It costs so much money to send skates to Africa, Argentina, Philippines, just wherever, like all these countries. There's so much tax and it's so expensive for the cheapest shipping ever, like thousands of dollars to ship like a handful of skates. So with everyone's help, we were able to, to do that and bring skates and wheels to less fortunate people in other countries. We take it for granted. We're able to call up the skate shop in a couple of days, get skates. If you want something on like whatever local skate shop, you could skate over there or walk over there for some people. A lot of people don't have that. So we just wanted to do a part to help that. We haven't done one since because, like I said, it is a lot of work and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we came out of pocket a lot of money for that. So we have to kind of like team up with somebody to figure out a better way to manage that and get it done. Were you asking what like the biggest achievement was for us, or
like what you were like, wow, with that was really something, like we should be proud of ourselves for that?
I mean, that is definitely one of the highlights for me. I just think also I'm glad that we could provide the entertainment. Like when we go to Winter Clash and we do them in person, and that little room, that little room upstairs, like it's packed with people where there's no people like staying on top of each other's shoulders to like watch a podcast live in person. Like I'm happy to see that many people are entertained and we're able to help provide stories from all these skaters. And, people want to hear from these skaters and they don't necessarily have a platform. They kind of do have a platform, but they're not necessarily putting themselves out there as they would on a podcast like this. So I'm just glad that we could do some sort of service where this is relatively new, not just to our sport, but just in general podcasting, So I'm glad that we're able to help and be a part of that in some way to bring this new style of media to skating.
Definitely. And we touched upon this before, actually, because I obviously did the video where I like guessed, what like various content creators were making each month. Billy roasted me in the Tim Franken episode. Actually, I forgot about that. Billy was like,
I'm surprised he did that, honestly.
David says we're making $3,000 a month or something. I was like, I never said that. I said there was the potential. I was like,
you gave like the range, right?
Yeah,
like you could be making up to this much.
I was like, it was a rate. At no point did I say you were making that. I don't know what's in your account.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool now that we are able to do something that's sustainable. And a lot of it is crowdsourced, but still like we're able to finally have something in skating that is sustainable. Like for years after being like the filmer guy or whatever, or trying to get like pro skate or pro frame, pro wheel, whatever it is, like it's so hard to come into the industry and be like, yeah, I'm going to be able to like do something and somehow make it sustainable and make money or maybe even make a living out of it. Like that doesn't really happen with rollerblading. It's super rare that people like John go on and start a brand like Them Skates and they're able to make it their full-time job. Like there's been so many wheel companies and frame companies that come and gone over the years, and clothing companies, people just trying to be involved, but somehow make it lucrative and sustainable. When we came up with the idea to do a podcast, I was like, at first it didn't really interest me, but then I sat on it and I thought about it. I'm like, oh wow, this is like a way to like make it happen and it'll be sustainable. And it's awesome to see that. It's awesome to know that with the way that technology has gone these days, there's so many ways for skaters to make money. It's all out there. People just got to go and grab it. You got to be a go-getter to get it. And I said this on the show plenty of times too, like individual skaters should have like their own Patreon pages and stuff, because you can't rely, if you're like a teenager trying to be pro, sure, you could like work up the ranks, float AM to pro, get a pro boot, but can you really live on like whatever this company's paying you, $1,000 a month, maybe something like that? Like it's not sustainable, but you could collab with other brands and build your social media following, have a Patreon page, give out content to your fans, and they could support you like that. So you could make so much money these days that you weren't able to do when I was trying to become a pro or like anyone else beforehand.
Yep. It is quite surprising how underutilized it is, and I think it is because there is that stigma that it's not cool.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Maybe like 15-year-old Austin would have said the same thing too, but it's not. It's like the older I got, the more I learned about like business and running your own company and stuff like that. Like just make shit happen. No one's there is no shame in it at all, because like, say you do start a Patreon, you put out exclusive content. Like I'm a patron of Michael Vitzman, and he puts out content pretty often, like little solo sessions of himself. I'm a fan of his skating. I want to like see more of his stuff. And if that's where I need to go to see it, I'm going to support that. It seems pretty like plain and simple to me. Not everybody thinks the way I do, you know, but it just makes more sense that like, if a lot of the top pros did that, they could build a big fan base and, you know, have a place to promote themselves more even, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like, I interviewed Pat Ritter, and obviously he got, I don't know what it was, like 30K or whatever for the skate. And everyone's like, oh, that's great. Like $30,000. That's incredible. But Pat was the first to admit, he's like, I don't get a salary.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm in debt. He's like, you know, all the previous trips to America, he's like, I paid for them. He's like, so he's like, it's great. You know, he's getting the money. That's brilliant. But the fact is, he's paying off debt. Yeah.
And I, like, that's huge, by the way. Like, just being able to give proper salary for skates is huge. From moving from $1 to $2 a skate to $20 to $30 a skate is massive. Like, the fact that any skater could get a check for $30,000 now for having a skate with their name on it is huge. Yeah, but he's completely right.
It is also shameful that a skate company ever thought it was acceptable to only pay $2.
Of course. And that's what people have fought for many years. But now that a lot of things are more skater owned, we're able to finally do this. But like Pat was saying, it's a nice like gift, but it's not sustainable still. Yep. That means if you get a pro skate, say there's a team that has like 5, 6, 7 people on it, and you're giving everybody a pro skate. Pat gets a pro skate in 2022, but he might not get another pro skate until 2025 because all these other people need pro skates as well. So $30,000 is nice, but it's $30,000 for like the next 4 years, 4 years, which is like nothing, you know? So a salary is nice to have, just to have constant income coming in. It's kind of like when you win the lotto. Do you want the $1 million up front and pay taxes later, or you want the tax taken out now so it doesn't bite you in the ass later on? It's like one of those situations. But when we get to the point where somebody can announce, like, we have salaries for our riders now, we have $5 royalties, but we have, you know, $30,000 a year salaries, 40,000, whatever it is, you know, it's better than nothing. That is like the next big step I think that we need to make to keep longevity in the pros in our sport, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. But the only way we're going to get that is if we stop marketing to ourselves and start marketing to other people. It feels like even to this day, almost all brands in skating are only really competing for the skating audience. We're not trying to make the skating audience bigger, which seems like a fundamental flaw. Like, if you're not try and increase the customer base, don't try and just sell to that existing customer base over and over and over again, because eventually they're going to die out like they did before, and they're not going to be replaced.
Yeah.
So
somebody might have an answer to that. I don't have an answer. I don't know who else doesn't have an answer to that. We need like real marketing geniuses to help out with this, or just some big connections randomly. I guess like what John's doing with Brain Dead and stuff like that, like a little more wider outside audience. But yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's why if 17-year-old Austin was living in 2022, my ass would be on Patreon, on YouTube, on Instagram, like every day, trying to get connections with brands, doing exactly what I'm doing with Jumpstreet. But, you know, for myself, just trying to be a pro skater and trying to sustain myself being a pro as long as possible, because you could easily make more money from Patreon than you can from a job when you're a teenager, you know, and then you can.
If you're an attractive female teenager, the sky's the limit.
When you're 17, actually, honestly, how big of a
teenager? That's grim. That's so dark.
Yeah, you're about to get canceled, Dave.
If you're an attractive young woman, you could. But yeah, I don't really. To be honest, Patreon's still a bit of a mystery to me. I don't really know about like all the people making millions on it.
Have you ever like looked into it? There's obviously it's like a diamond in a rough type of situation. It's like the people who can make livings off YouTube and stuff, but there's accounts making 6 figures a month on Patreon. Like, it's crazy. look it up. Like just look up like some of the top people on Patreon and see what they even offer. Like it's crazy that the possibilities are endless on Patreon. It's just a matter of obviously building it up. But yeah, when you're like a teenager trying to be a pro skater, honestly, how much could you be making from work a year? Like $20,000 a year, something like that. Like you don't have like a career at that point.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, exactly. You don't have a career at that point. I was making $10 an hour or something like that at that point. Like I would have loved to have been able to
when I was in my 20s, I was making like 17 grand a year. Like I was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm being like over ambitious. I'm using inflation now. I'm trying to think about like inflation, what kids would be making nowadays compared to like when we were younger, but still like to make $1,000 a month on Patreon, to be able to pay for your plane tickets to travel, not having to rely on a company. The sponsor could drop you next week. And then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do anything. You can't go to the next event. You can't go to Winter Clash. You can't go to Blading Cup, whatever. But if you have people supporting you, you could buy these tickets yourself and have money to invest in buying a new camera so you can make better videos for people and, this and that, and collaborate with brands and have them have affiliate links with other brands and promote stuff that way and make money on the side doing that. So there's so many ways that pros can be doing that without necessarily relying on the rollerblading industry to give them that money, because there's not much to come from it.
Having the simple A/B solution of, oh yeah, my sponsor should just provide it for me, just seems like a little bit too simplistic and a little bit naive. That
was the problem for so many years for us. So now there are so many options out there, and I always have been encouraging people to do this. And Michael Vitzman does it. I know Joe Zank does it, I think, too. Bobby made one. Bobby Spaslov made one, but I think he took it down because he stopped. He wasn't like really doing it, because I remember I said like I have like $20 a month for whoever like does it, and Bobby was like one of the first people to do it. But I think after a few months he took it down. I'm not saying just Patreon. There's other ways to make money too, but without relying on skate companies to provide for you and your sponsors, because we're not at that level yet, and it's easy for someone to get washed out that way and not be able to be a pro for more than a handful of years, which is sad, because in other sports, people are pros for a decade, 15 years, something like that. So that's what we want to see more of as well.
Definitely. So obviously you guys you've got advertising with Rollerblade, and you've had a bunch of companies over the years that have got involved for, some short stints, some longer. You've obviously got the super chats, which, some of them look as if they rack up hundreds of dollars in certain episodes. I imagine those are obviously rare, but like it seems like there's ones that definitely. Then you've got the Patreon. You've got like merch and stuff like that. And I'm assuming,
and the supplements too. We do have supplements now.
Supplements, and then YouTube stuff. So like, how sustainable is Jumpstreet at the present moment? It's
still just like a side thing for both of us. It's like, obviously we have to split the money between the two of us too. So it's not like, it's 50% already off the bat, but it's definitely more money than any of us was ever making as pro skaters. Billy was more of a pro than I was, but it was more, I'm pretty sure he's made more money off Jumpstreet than being a pro skater, which is crazy to think about. It definitely was for me, because I only got checks for a short amount of time in skating. It needs to still grow to like an insane level. Like I think we wouldn't be able to have like a fully sustainable podcast until we get to like hundreds of thousands of subscribers and all this crazy shit. And then when we're able to, like do a live podcast and have like a couple thousand people watching at the same time, like those are numbers that would be more sustainable, where we could actually somewhat consider making a living off it. But it's hard to judge, because all that stuff, monetization rates change all the time as well. And YouTube, I don't know how. It's crazy for anybody who thinks that like people make money off YouTube. It as well. Like how much do you make off monetization a month off YouTube? Like pennies?
I think I make, on a very, very, very good month, £70 a month.
Yeah, a month. And that's actually good. That's better than I thought.
But that's say for example, that would be like, if this almost never happens, I'm lucky if I can put out like a video a fortnight or every 3 weeks, just because obviously I have a job, I have a child, I have other responsibilities. But if it happens like to be an easy month at work or whatever, and I can just bash out like 3 or 4 and they get I don't know, between 5 and 10,000 views, then I can get like £70 a month. But £70 a month that's not a
That's
cheap
dinner.
thing. That's not
That's dinner for one night.
It's nice, and it's it's a little bit extra, like, or if I break something, because I seem to have a habit of doing that, it replaces that fairly quickly. But it doesn't allow you to. The whole goal was to make money to do bigger projects, like
exactly.
a live event or stuff like that. But that's just not reached that level yet.
And that's what when I first started Jumpstreet too. When we first started, I was like, we spent like $1,500 or something like that on like the equipment that we needed to get it done, because we knew we wanted to do it live, and obviously you needed like more equipment, at least at the time, to do it live. And we put up the money for it, and I was just like, if we make the money back for this somehow, I'm happy with it, because you don't expect to do anything from skating. Like, I'm not expecting to make a ton of money. I never was. We all do this because we love it. No one's doing it here to make money. We're all doing it here because we love it. If we were trying to make money, we wouldn't be doing this in the first place. We know better than that by now. So in the beginning, I was just like, as long as we get our microphones paid for and the cables that we needed, as long as that's paid for, I'm happy. So it's well exceeded my expectation, at least in that sense.
Does it cover the cost of like going to trips to do live events when you do like the Blade Havasu or the Blade Cup or Winter Clash or stuff like that? Or because I know that Yo-Yo is really good with stuff like that and helps out people that go to the events and like.
Yeah, he's the only one who really does that, as far as I know. Anyway, he does help out. It doesn't cover our full ticket because we're coming from the States, obviously, but it definitely helps out with that. But yeah, the Patreon shit definitely helps out. Even it's been a while since we had guests in person. It's not too common these days, but like we were paying for people's Ubers to get to my place if people are visiting, because obviously they don't live here, they don't have a car and stuff like that. Or we were paying for people's Ubers. We still do that when we go to like Blading Cup and we do episodes out of Billy's house. Like, we're paying for people to go back and forth from Blading Cup, Santa Ana to Long Beach, back and forth. Like, so the money definitely does help with stuff like that. There's still like, we pay for like annual expenses for like our live streaming software and stuff. And we need to upgrade. Two of our microphones broke. It happens over time. So like, we still need to upgrade stuff like that. So we do put money back into the podcast as much as possible. It's not like it just goes in our pocket and we're just like, going having steak dinners every weekend or something like that. It's definitely not like that at all. But yeah, all that money goes to a good place and keeps us motivated and keep going for as long as we can, hopefully.
Well, now that Billy started Mesmer, you can start doing, like companies do insider trading and basically help each other out and then like boost their, essentially boost their profits. You guys can start like hustling insider trading by pushing Mesmer and Mesmer pushing Jumpstreet and vice versa.
That's up to him. It's his business. It's not mine. So whatever he wants to do with that. Just
go full Wolf of Wall Street. Just increase the stock options. Yeah.
I thought we were going to take over the whole industry like that.
Yeah. It's just a slow and steady, casual movements behind the scenes. So what does the future hold for Jumpstreet? Like, you guys have obviously branched out and started doing, a lot of Patreon content, a lot of non-podcast content. Like, like you've started, which I've always thought you should do, like delving into the incredible history that both you and Billy, and like, I'm assuming have you kept the tapes from back in the day and stuff like that? Like, if no,
I'm so pissed I didn't, but yeah, I don't.
But even still, like your accomplishments alone are stuff that you can celebrate, like things like Billy doing the Staples Gap, things like you doing that iconic True Topsail and Truth 2 and stuff like that, Franco Camayo's Gap to the Rail. Like there's all that kind of local history you've got. God, you could even do like a section where you guys just go round iconic New York skate spots and talk about the stuff you've witnessed there and then show it from like the videos it's been in. I've just given you an idea. I don't know why I did that.
I'm gonna write this down. Hang on.
But like stuff like that, like you guys have got such a kind of like wealth of history to draw on just from your personal experiences that there's so much stuff you could make. But have you guys talked about like any other future things you want to work on?
Yeah, we have a long list of ideas of stuff similar to that as well. And it's always easier to get the content when we're together, which it's harder now because obviously he's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. When he is out in, when he is in New York, we take full advantage of it as much as we can. He usually has a busy schedule because he's trying to fit so much within the short time that he's here, but we're always trying to film stuff like that. Same thing when I'm out in California for Blading Cup, we try to squeeze as many days we can to film whatever. As you're just asking like what other content are we trying to create, or like
just like plans in general for the future for Jumpstreet as a whole?
I don't know if we have like an actual like goal or anything like that to do. I just want to be able to
stop looking at the whiteboard on the wall behind the screen. I saw you just glance at it there.
No, we when we started the show. All right, so when we started the show, a big thing, at least I could talk from my perspective of it. A big thing was like, there is so much history in our sport. There's been so many years of top pros who didn't have a platform like this to speak at the time when they were big and they were pro. So it'd be nice to give these people an opportunity to tell these stories, like Brian Shima going through the mind game video, like Ryan Jackalone or whatever it is. We just looked at so much history, and like you're saying, like go to like iconic New York spots and talk about the history of what's been done there. And it's been fun doing all that. And I still enjoy doing that as well. But more recently, I've been more excited about looking into the future and the current state of skating and the people who deserve it now more than ever, because we're trying to build the sport and you're not going to always build it by looking in the past. It is fun to see once in a while, but it's not, for me personally, it's not like my main focus as much as it was when we first started Jumpstreet. I like having all these new people on the show. I like having up and comers to talk about it, and it builds the youth in our audience as well, which we could connect, since obviously you're probably the same way, like that our main audience is probably like 25 to like 40, you know.
It's really depressing. Yeah, every time I look at that, I'm like, everyone that watches mine is over 30. This is fucked.
Exactly. But it should be, you know, that's fine too. Like, you know, that's fine having that, but like, let's build up the 15 to 25 demographic a little bit, you know? And I think that's going to happen by us talking with a lot of more younger people, up and comer skaters, people that they can relate to a little more. So that's kind of where I want to set a little bit more of my focus on. So the history and stuff still is good, but I just want to look forward as much as I can. I'm excited to see what skating has in the future. I just want to be a part of that as much as I can, even though I am, quote, like an older guy nowadays, but I still want to be involved as much as possible and help grow that youth in the newer demographic as much as possible, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you still need to finish off the Hoax series though, because if you don't get Brian Smith on,
we tried.
I mean, he's
a busy man. He's a busy man.
Had the most ridiculous success story known to man.
He's a busy man, which makes perfect sense when you know what he does now and exactly what you're talking about. He has the most ridiculous success story. We tried it a few times. We almost had him in person one time at Blading Cup, and then it like fell through like a few days before or something like that. But we'll get him on eventually. And then we have Evan Stone also to talk to, who is also down for the show. And they're all down for like a Hoax reunion type of thing, which I'd be so excited for that just as much as anything else. So we still have things to focus on too, but
right.
Hell yeah. Brian Smith, that episode, if we don't have him for like at least 3 hours, there's no reason to have him on. You know, he's probably got so much shit to talk about.
I was watching a TV show like a few months ago. What was it called? The Morning Show or something like that. And then Brian Smith just randomly appears as a character on it. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing on a Netflix TV show?
Like a new show?
Yeah, it's with Jennifer Aniston again.
Really? Again?
Yeah.
What are they? Oh, I know they're friends now.
Yeah, he's in the TV show. He's Jennifer Aniston's like personal photographer.
That's so crazy how that happened.
And then about a month
I know they're
later,
friends, so I'm sure he has some connection still with what she's doing. And she's Jennifer Aniston, so.
And then about a month later, I saw a Brandon Boyd interview. Do you know like Brandon Boyd from Incubus?
No,
but like they were like really big in the late 90s.
I know Incubus. I don't know who Brandon Boyd is.
Yeah, like I was a huge fan of them, and I was like, oh, Brandon Boyd interview. I'll watch that. Turn it on. Who's sitting next to him? Brian Smith. And they're
For
like,
what?
They're interviewing Brian Smith because it was basically like a creatives forum thing. And Brandon Boyd gives this elaborate story of how Brian Smith was like the first photographer that ever showed interest in their band and yada, yada, yada.
Wow. That's him. He's that guy always in the right place at the right time.
Well, that was the funny part. Brian turned around and goes, was any of that true? And Brandon's like, no, I just made that up because I thought it sounded cool.
Dude, we definitely need him on. He's like one of the top people on our hit list.
Their like Grammy award winning Like they're like multi-platinum selling album, like one of their biggest albums.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
Front cover.
I didn't know that.
Like nuts. Like the guy has done so much, it's insane.
Yeah, we definitely need him on. That's one where like we wanted to focus on having him on in person. And that's why we focus on him like for the Blading Cup times, like those types. And he was at Blading Cup last year too, or the last like 2 years, I think also. But it's like an in and out type of thing. Got other shit to do. So I don't know. We'll get him on one day.
You mean the Spring Blading Cup?
Spring? Well, he was. I didn't go to Spring Cups. He was at the regular Blading Cup before that, and he might have been on the Blading Cup before that as well. I don't remember, but he was definitely at the last one.
Right. I thought you were referring to Quadgate 2022.
Have you gotten Montreal to talk about that yet?
If I was really mean, I'd ask you what you think about that.
You could ask me what I think about that. I don't care.
What did you think about the whole situation about Montreal entering in the first place and then not being allowed to win?
So I feel like Montreal had every right to. I mean, it's not my contest, so whatever. I'm just gonna speak my opinion, but I feel like as far as like a general open contest, if Montreal paid to skate to compete, he deserves to win just like anybody else. Whether stipulation should have been set in the beginning, where like, hey, Montreal, I know I see your name on the list to enter. Just like, we'll let you, if you want to compete, we'll let you skate for free. You just can't win, or so. Like some stipulation should have been made beforehand, before they obviously knew Montreal was going to come in and just fuck shit up.
Definitely, yeah.
That's why I think about it. I think, sure, Montreal deserved every right to win. I understand why they wouldn't want him to win, because it does seem a little unfair. I see both sides to it. I just feel like the overall situation could have been handled better. And it's kind of good that it happened, because that was bound to happen anyway, the way that every skating event has a quad event at it now. And people are transitioning over from rollerblades to quads. So that was bound to happen regardless. It's just crazy that it happened to happen at like one of the biggest events with one of the biggest skaters.
Yeah. Like there's I don't think there's any debate that Montreal deserved to win. In fact, it's kind of uncomfortable watching the finals when you see what he's doing in comparison to what everyone
I didn't even
else.
see like too much of it.
Basically, he's grinding the rail and doing like 450 off, like it's
I
nothing.
can imagine that.
And then the girls are kind of struggling to even get halfway along the rail, and he's like misty flipping off the stairs, and they're like struggling to 180 it. There's no, but then you kind of think Montreal would never be allowed to compete against a predominantly female field in an aggressive competition, so he should never have been allowed to compete against. It doesn't matter if there's also guys competing in the quad event. It's mainly made up of women. He should never really have been allowed that opportunity in the first place.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Like some stipulation should have been made in the beginning before he was even physically competing in it. Like when they saw Montreal's name on the list, they should have known like
it was going to be a massacre. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So I just think it could have been handled better that way. Maybe they just, I don't know how it was overlooked. I don't know what happened in the background, who was involved with that, but now it happened. So we know for the future that if it happens again, stipulations should be made of some sort. I'm curious what like the quad skating community thought about that, if they thought that was fair or not, because he had a lot of fans there too from the quad skating community.
He did, and he's right in the fact that he is a quad skater. Like
yeah, exactly.
He's skated quad, but I think another angle to look at it is from, if he really cared about the community, couldn't he also have the foresight to step back and see that a world-renowned pro aggressive skater coming into the very first quad event at Blading Cup and just wiping the floor with all the quad skaters is not a good look. Like it basically undermines the whole quad community. By just,
I see that.
Like one of our guys can just come in, destroy you anytime he wants.
He also could just want to be involved just as much as he would be involved in anything else. I mean, does that make it more equal for him to just be part of the competition like anyone else?
I just feel like it felt like having that event at Blading Cup was more like a showcase, or more like a welcoming the sport into the event, rather than it being like a serious professional competition kind of thing, if it makes sense.
I completely understand it.
As opposed to like, if you put Montreal up against, I don't know, like the big boys in the quad community, like the guys that are, the guys that you'd expect to see in concrete bowls in the 90s on quad skates, like those kind of dudes. Like if you're putting them up against them, that's one thing. If you're putting them up against what looked like mainly young women, then it becomes a different aesthetic altogether.
It definitely does. But I'm sure everyone learned from it and knows how to handle it in the future. And I don't know what I kind of know what Montre, how he felt about it, because he posted on his Instagram. He was definitely upset about it. I see both sides of it. I see both sides of it. There's also ways that it could have been avoided, which in hindsight's 2020, you look back on it now, and obviously I'm sure whoever the organizers were for the event said the same thing too. Like, oh, we should have done this differently or whatever to avoid the problem for that. But hopefully it just doesn't happen again. That's all. If that happens again, then we have a serious problem. Yeah,
that was a very diplomatic response. I like that. Also, I did ask Montre if he wanted to come on and talk about it, and he politely told me to go fuck myself. Okay, he didn't tell me to go fuck myself, but he did basically say no and was quite rude about it. And I don't blame him for that. That's fair enough.
That's hilarious.
Because he's entitled to be annoyed about it. Right. I have quizzed you for long enough, but I've got some questions from viewers, and these are far tamer than I would have went. So I feel like you've got off light here.
Okay. What did you expect? What am I like a?
See, you're the nice guy. Like, no one's ever got anything bad to say about you. I'm curious to know this. Have you ever beefed with like another like renowned skater, or like another well-known skater? Have you ever had like a fallout? I don't feel like you're one of those guys.
I don't think so. No.
I mean, Billy's had hundreds. Billy's probably lost count, but yeah.
I don't got time to fucking beef with anybody and shit. I don't know. If for some reason I don't like somebody, I just don't get involved. I'm not going to talk shit on somebody. I'm not going to call somebody out in an event when I see them. I don't give a fuck. I just want to be able to skate and have fun with people. That's it.
I like how you went extra New York there when you gave it. I don't give a fuck about it.
That's how passionate I was about that statement.
The first question is from Rene Dillon, and they want to know, what's your ideal pizza? I've got a follow-up question for this actually, but I feel like you're a margarita kind of guy. I feel like you're like plain and good.
Pizza. See, it's like when people come to New York, like, which has funnily enough happened enough, like where people have be like, oh, I'm visiting New York. What pizzeria should I visit? Like, I'm like the pizza tour guy now.
That would be my question. I'm like, where's the best place to get like a 99-cent slice? Is it even possible to get a 99-cent slice?
Yeah, they still got dollar slices still. Yeah, they still got dollar slices, which they're not the worst too for 99 cents. But there's just there's so many different kinds of pizza that like I have so many favorite pizzerias, but they're all different. Like I go to this place because it has the good regular slice. I go to this place because it has the good square slices. I go to this place because the margaritas are really good. Like there's so many different things, but I don't know if I have like a favorite pizza or something like that. I do miss though, like the pizza in like Scandinavia is really good. Oddly enough, like, okay, I had like really good pizza in like Denmark and like Sweden, like really good, which I missed.
In Denmark, it probably cost you like $20 a slice, so it would have to be good if it was. It's
like the little personal pies, like
this is bullshit.
The brick oven pies, but like like the hot salami pies out there, like are so good. I if I could like eat a type of pizza right now, it would be one of those pizzas. Not even like a New York slice or something.
I was about to say all the New York guys are going to come up. They see this.
Let them.
You're a dead man.
They know what it is. I had pizza today. I had pizza right before coming on this show. I had the classic, it was quick, easy, right around the block, but New York pizza is still, I would say, one of the best, but there's so many different styles of pizza and different types. So it's hard to say what's the best, it's kind of like skating, like who has the best style in skating? Oh, you can't say that. Everyone skates differently. Same thing with pizza to me.
How you don't have love handles is a complete mystery to me. I feel like you must spend like 10 hours a day on that fucking Peloton bike in your bedroom.
I was on it this morning.
In preparation for the pizza. I've got to do 50K. I've got to do 50K.
I got to work it off.
Yeah. I've already kind of asked this. Josh Allen wants to know, what does success for Jumpstreet Podcast look like?
Oh yeah, I guess we did. That's not the same, but success for Jumpstreet Podcast. Success. I don't know what success would be, as long as we're able to provide some sort of entertainment to the skating community and somehow contribute to the sport and keep people going and keep people motivated to skate. I feel like we did a good job, because people comment all the time or message us like, oh, I just listened to the Frankie podcast, I can't wait to go skating now. He got me so hyped. I loved his skating. People have so much feedback, which I don't get why they say it to us. They should say it to the guests, like on the show. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But like, people often share memories they've had with guests that we've had on the show, or how much they meant to them as a skater, like how they changed their skating mindset or their life or whatever it is. And I love hearing that shit, because it makes it feel like we do something good, and it makes the skaters feel like they're doing something good as well. So that feedback is awesome to have. But I feel like as long as just we're somehow contributing and being a part of the community, it's a success to me. I just want to be involved some way or another.
Definitely. Plus, I feel like the skaters do always get their dues. I feel like they do always get people contacting them being like, love your skating, man, or like, I love that section, or like, I always watch this. Whereas I don't feel like the people that give them platforms do always get, the kind of the credit they deserve. You go, oh, well, you wouldn't have known that story if this person hadn't have given them the opportunity to tell it to you. So I do feel like it's only right that you guys get your just deserves, and that people are hyping you up and going, thank you for like letting me find that out about my favorite skater or whatever.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that. I don't know, like, I don't reach out to guests on the show to find out like what messages they've got, but I'm sure they do get some feedback and everything. I just wanted to say one thing along those lines too, because I get, like, you're talking about like responding to messages, like people like, hey, I love your skating, whatever, just like kind of keeping it simple. And somehow I get people who say that to me. I don't know why. Somehow people say that to me and
behave.
Like I answer people back, and I try to answer like every single DM I get, every single comment that I get on like my videos and shit. And so I can't tell you how many times people have messaged me and they're like, wow, I can't believe you messaged me back. Most people don't respond. And I'm like, why wouldn't you respond to somebody? Like, if somebody's giving you a compliment, you don't just like ignore them, or like somebody's asking you a question, like a reasonable question, like, you shouldn't just ignore them. And that's, I don't know. I don't know what type of person, what it says about like the type of person you are. Maybe some people just aren't as in tune to social media as others are, but like, I feel like everybody should be responding back to fans of theirs who are just letting them know how much they enjoy their skating, or asking them a question about like their skates or the way they approach a trick or something like that. I feel like that's like kind of like a dick move not to answer people,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've had, like, if anyone's ever asked a question or like wanted help, I'm like, yeah, like, or if they just, like you say, if they just get in contact to be nice.
Yeah.
Say, like, of course, even if you just acknowledge it and be like, oh, it takes 2 seconds to write thanks.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's all you really need. I mean, and sometimes the conversation just ends there. Sometimes people legit just want to be like, yo, that trick was sick, man. Your skating is awesome. I love it. I just want to, let you know, shout out from Germany or something like that. And then you're like, oh, thanks. I appreciate the love, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And then that's it. Like, it takes 2 seconds.
I love how you tried to be modest there and be like, oh, I don't know why people like my skating. I've had like 10 pro wheels, but yeah, okay. How many pro wheels have you had?
I don't know. Not 10.
5.
7 or something.
So more. Right. Last question. Where do you see yourself going with skating? Is there anything left that you want to achieve? That is quite an interesting one, because is there stuff that you've got like a bucket list that you want to tick off, like just for you personally?
I don't think I have any type of bucket list. I just, especially now more that my skating has expanded to different styles, I guess, or genres of skating, is more than just me hitting a rail or jumping a gap or something like that. I'm having a lot of fun with that now. And it's kind of like refreshed my love for skating and my capability to expand what creative stuff I could do on skates. So like skating, the Wizard skates definitely helped me a lot to learn how to like maneuver a little bit. Skating 80 millimeter wheels in an aggressive setting kind of like made me change the way I skated a little bit. So, and I would have never expected this for me 10 years ago. So I can only wonder 10 years from now how my skating is going to be then. Who knows what's going to happen? I just want to try as much different shit as possible and the more crazy my skating gets that I wouldn't have expected, the happier I am with it, because I love my skating now more than ever. And that's kind of it. I'm not like over trying to be like a pro or something like that, or a sponsor or something. I just want to do the shit I'm doing now, have fun skating, learn something every time I go out and skate, and just have fun. That's it.
You're better than pro. You're former pro. And that's
Farmer pro?
Farmer.
Former pro.
F-O-R, not F-O-R.
My bad. The accent got to me.
The accent is, look at it. Julio, former pro, still killing it.
It's true.
Billy, former pro, absolutely killing it. Stockwell, dear God. Like, every time I see a Stockwell clip in a skate park, I'm like,
he hasn't lost anything.
It's disturbing. How's the flat spin experimentation going?
That's funny because yesterday I half-assed through one because there's a skate park by me called Bloomfield that we go to like once a week or something. It's like the only place around here that has like a legit launch box. And I was trying to learn back, like, remember flying fish grabs? Yeah. Like, I feel like people did them a lot back in the day. Tim Ward. Oh my God, so good. Ones. So I feel like people did them a lot back in the day. Once in a while you see them now, but I just kind of wanted to like relearn them again. So I was throwing flying fish 360s and I got kind of tired at the end of the night, and I just like wanted to throw a flat spin and like half-assed do like a 540 flat spin on the box. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get hurt now. I'm going to call it quits. But next time I go back, I'm definitely going to start throwing more flat spins.
I was meaning on a vert ramp because I'd seen
a vert ramp.
I'd seen you hucking them on a vert ramp not that long ago, or was it like
a vert ramp,
or was it a mini ramp? It might have just been...
I was just learning like 540s and stuff on a. It was. Are you talking about the indoor one?
Yeah,
because that's at Substance. It's like an 8-foot vert ramp. It's really weird. It's an 8-foot ramp, so it's not a vert, but it inverts just like a vert ramp. So you can air it like a vert ramp, but it's just not as tall. So I was like using that to like learn how to do spins and get the little bitch out and go above coping, because that's the scariest part about it. Obviously, if that was like one aspect of skating I could learn, it would be vert. Like I kick myself every time thinking about when I went to Japan and I stayed with Takeshi and Eito Yasutoko for like a week and wasn't once like, can you give me a lesson on this thing? Like, I can't believe that I let that opportunity slip. But at that time, I didn't give a shit. I was fucking so young. I didn't care about vert or anything. But now looking back on it, I appreciate vert skaters. I appreciate their skating, especially. And I would love to be able to hit a vert ramp and just get like nice air or like 540 or something, like watching all those little kids train on it, like kids that are like 10 years old being able to flat spin a vert ramp, like that shit's crazy. I would love to do that. So
the fact they can still do that is just, and at that level is wild. That when you stayed in Japan, was that for the Able tour?
Yeah. Was it just Able? I think it was just the Able tour. Yeah. That was like, I think it was 2008.
Was Alex Brosco there?
No, he was in a trip to like Japan like a few months before us, I think.
Right.
So I think J-Ro was on the same trip with us, and J-Ro was just talking about on that trip how he was just in Japan with Alex and I don't know, other KFC guys or something.
Okay. I've always went because there's a clip of Alex and it looks like he's drunk in a shopping center.
No way.
And I'm like, is this genuine? Like he's kind of like stumbling about and just being a bit uncoordinated and he seems a bit out of it. And
he's probably goofing around. I'm sure he wasn't actually drunk.
Was this maybe like the one and only time Alex was drunk and he went, that's it, that's enough for me, that was humiliating?
I would be very shocked if he was actually drunk then.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too, but I just
he goofs around a lot. I don't know. I wasn't there for that. I can't speak on that.
Right. I've quizzed you for over almost 2.5 hours. I think I've taken up more than enough for your Thursday. It's Wednesday. It's not Thursday. It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's how hard
you're losing it over there.
I'm losing it. I've also noticed my eyes are incredibly small, which must be from the amount of times that they've watered throughout the week.
You feeling good now, though?
Like, I think I'm coming out the other end of it. But yeah, have you ever had coronavirus?
I got it like 2 months ago or something like that. And I know everyone has it differently. It was just like a fever for me for like 2 days, and that was it.
Yeah, I've sweated a lot. Definitely sweated a lot. Yeah.
Good little workout for you.
Feels like just having like, a weird flu. But yeah, not too bad. This has been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully the next time I see you will be at Winter Clash. There's no chance I'm going to be able to round up enough money to make Blading Cup this year.
Yeah, I will most likely be at Winter Clash too. I was just talking about that today. So,
okay. Then this time I can be like, hey, Austin, how you doing? And he'd be like, oh, David, how you doing? It's nice to see you.
I'm going to be a dick and do the same thing again that I did last time.
Just walk past me and all the guys are like, I thought you two were cool. I thought we were cool too. I don't know what's happening.
I'm gonna do the same shit I did last time, Dave. I was fucking around. I did that shit on purpose.
That's what Mike told me. Mike was like, Austin's just an arsehole to everyone. Just get used to it. And I was like, oh, shit.
Mike who?
Torres.
Oh, yeah, he would say that.
He didn't say that. I completely made that up. Sorry, Mike. I apologize.
I 100% believed you there.
Actually, Mike screwed me over. Mike screwed me over and went on Jumpstreet before when he said he was going to go on platform like 6 months before. So
really,
fuck you, Mike. I'm not. I don't take it back. I'm making fun of you.
I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, he did. He was honourable about it. He messaged me to give me a heads up and be like, the guys have asked me to go on, and I'm going to. And I was like, that's cool. That's fine. You were a gentleman about it. That's okay.
At least it came out about it like that.
But it was his idea to come on platform, so Mike, you know what you did.
He could still go on your show. Why hasn't he?
He can't. He's tainted. I don't want sloppy seconds, right?
you need a buffer in between.
That's it. Yeah. He can go on Jan's first. Actually, you can go on back to Blading first, and then he can come here. I know how strongly he feels about back to Blading, so that can be his punishment. But this was awesome. It was great to talk to you, and yeah, hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I didn't have to say this before, but like I've told you before in the past, like I've been a huge fan of your work. Like since that BMAG article that you did, however many years ago that was, like your writing was unlike anyone else's that I've seen in skating, and you did an awesome job. And I even reached out to you years ago, like let's somehow do something together before Jumpstreet was a thing. But yeah, it's an honor being on the podcast too. Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
Awesome. Well, speak soon. And now I'm going to have to go and look through the old blade shades and see what I actually made fun of you for, because I can't believe I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Shoot me a message about that. We'll do audio through Instagram chat, and you can put that dubbed in underneath.
It's definitely in your Instagram DMs. I'm sure if you scroll up, you'll just see what I was poking fun at you about. But yeah, I can't remember. I definitely drank a lot of red wine that night. I know that. I
didn't know that. So
right. Speak soon.
All right. Take it easy. Have a good night.
Bye.
Later.